Stop on the light. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
We do have moderation. Thank you for being the moderation of your own life. And let's get going in there, shall we? And welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episodes for everything covering movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us this week for another wonderful Media Boat podcast. We have a lot to talk about today. Today is January the 28th, 2023. Can you believe we're almost into February? We're
Yes.
almost a month in
Yes, I can.
to
But then
2023.
again, my work constantly reminds me
Yes.
the end of the month is coming.
Oh, yeah, mine too. Trust me. And yes, thank you for joining us. This is episode 368. A lot to talk about. So let's get right into it.
Oh, God, there's so much to talk about. We have so much thoughts today that we literally should probably just jump right into that.
So go.
But we won't. We're going to stick to our format.
Go for it.
And we're going to start with the music section. We'll start the music section with the Billboard.
Yes.
We start the Billboard with the Hot 100.
Yes.
And if you're listening to last week's episode, we already spoiled what number one was.
Well, yeah.
Flowers by Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, debuting at number 1 this week, dethroning Antihero, and yeah, kind of dominating the streaming waves as we talked about last week. I have not heard this song in its entirety, but I got the chorus and I was like, okay, I more or less know what this song is.
Okay. At 2, Kill Bill by SZA,
Yep.
not Quentin Tarantino. Coming in at 3, Antihero by Taylor Swift, not Quentin Tarantino. At 4, Creepin' by Metro Boomin, not Quentin Tarantino.
Unless your feet.
That's the creeping part. But it's also The Weeknd and 21 Savage.
Mhm.
And rounding out your top 5, Unholy, which is Quentin Tarantino. I mean, Sam Smith and Kim Petras.
We'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yes. As for your Billboard 200, your albums chart, at number 1, SOS by SZA.
Mhm.
2, Midnights by Taylor Swift. At 3, Heroes and Villains by Metro Boomin. At 4, Her Loss by Drake and 21 Savage. And rounding out your top 5, my contribution to this list, I'm sorry for everyone, but The Highlights by The Weeknd.
Was this you? Was it you just listened to this like 5 times this week and you pushed it up to the top 5 again?
I just really like that album.
Yeah, I bet.
It's the hits.
Yeah, this dethrones whatever the hell last week's number 5 was. And yeah, returning to the top 5. I don't know why. It's just, I feel like it's just going to be one of those things for the rest of this decade. We're just going to see pop up every once in a while because, hey, people like The Weeknd.
Yes, we do. If you didn't like any of those albums, we have new releases, including Queen of Me by Shania Twain.
Yes,
That's Shania Twain.
She's back.
There's also Get Up Sequences Part 2 by the Go Team. And Heavy Heavy by Young Fathers.
So not a huge release week, but new Shania Twain is at least interesting. However, after watching that documentary about her from last year and hearing a little bit of her more recent music, I don't know.
Ooh.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
We will see.
Let's go, girls.
Anyway, speaking of Let's Go Girls, Britney Spears is in the news.
That's true.
Yeah. So once again, she is asking for fans and the public to respect her privacy.
This was a rough one.
This, of course, is after the police were called to her house following the singer's deactivation of her Instagram account. Quote, I love and adore my fans, but this time things went a little too far and my privacy was invaded, Spears wrote in a statement posted to Twitter. Per TMZ, Spears posted an Instagram video promoting concerned fans.
You skipped a link.
Promoting dancing and saying, quote, I changed my name to River Red. The singer then deleted her account, prompting concerned fans to call the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. According to Spears, quote, the police never entered my home, and when they came to my gate, they quickly realized there were no issue and left immediately. This felt like I was being gaslit and bullied once the incident made it to the news and being portrayed once again in a poor and unfair light by the media. During this time in my life, I truly hope the public and my fans, who I care so much about, can respect my privacy moving forward. All the love, B.
How many times must we tell you people, leave Britney
Britney
alone?
alone.
No, but seriously, you call yourself fans, but then you do stuff like this, where you're like, oh, when she's just clearly being silly, me and Britney Spears,
Mhm.
who is known to be silly. Let's be real. If you follow any of her Instagram or Twitter things, she's just a silly person. She just does weird things. She says weird things. She's kind of a weirdo, but that's one of the reasons why we love her. And
She's our
so
weirdo.
she does a weird thing like this, and everybody starts worrying about her and then calls the police on her. Please don't do that. Know better than this. Leave her alone. Let her live. Let her be silly.
Know when things are jokes.
Yes. I don't
Know
know.
when not to be taken seriously.
It just, it continues to be sucky to be Britney Spears, is I guess the lesson here. But
Yeah.
yes, fans, come on. Respect her privacy, respect her independence, respect her ability to make choices. And because that's how we ended up in this whole situation in the first place.
Yep.
Anyway, that's all. That's pretty much all this story is. It's a pretty light story, but yeah, it happened. So leave her alone.
Yep. But moving on to the other side of the country, from California
Yes.
to the U.S. Capitol,
Yes.
where the Ticketmaster Senate hearings were
Finally.
getting underway.
So yes, this is follow-up from, of course, that Senate said that they were going to tackle the Ticketmaster.
No, you can't write your Ticket Monster.
Ticketmaster.
Ticket Monster.
Motherfucking Mazda. Yeah, so Ticketmaster, basically monopoly situation following the Taylor Swift fiasco. And yeah, we're finally starting the hearings.
Except Taylor Swift herself did not testify.
No, not at this stage.
No. Interest in the hearing was prompted by reaction to the debacle involving November's sale about her Eras tour, in which Ticketmaster handed 47 of the 52 dates.
Yeah.
With SeatGeek ticketing those remainder 5. Senator Mike Lee of Utah, the current ranking member of the subcommittee, noted, quote, "As I was driving up this morning, I couldn't help but notice I've never seen more smiling and happy demonstrators than I saw today. I think Swifties have figured something out. They're very good at getting their message across." On the other side, though, in her initial remarks, Amy Klobuchar emphasized, quote, "I believe in capitalism. Full stop."
There's more.
Okay. I believe in capitalism. And to have a strong capitalist system, you have to have competition. You can't have too much consolidation. Something that, unfortunately for this country, as an ode to Taylor Swift, I will say we know all too well. It was not the only citation of Taylor Swift lyrics during the proceedings.
So yeah, I just mostly wanted to include the story just because, yeah, if you go and Google like a supercut of all the times that senator said something about, it's quoted a Taylor Swift song, there's at least 5 or 6 of them, and it's very, very funny. But the important note about the story is, yes, it looks like this is a uniting, there's a united front against Ticketmaster here. There are members of both parties that are interested in taking them down and have different reasons, I guess, in support of it. And yeah, so it's interesting, one, to see our system working together like this, as it rarely does these days. And 2, it gives me hope for how this will end. I think that Ticketmaster is going to have a lot of explaining to do here. And yeah, Swifties are to thank for putting this into motion, at least further in motion than it already was. So yeah, good vibes so far. We'll see how long those good vibes last when we start actually moving into Ticketmaster's side of the story, which will be interesting to hear.
Oh, I can already tell what Ticketmaster's side of the story is.
Well, yeah.
The SEC allowed this to happen.
Right, pretty much.
Blame the government.
Yeah, exactly.
You let this happen.
Well, previous administrations that were a little more lax about this kind of thing made this happen ultimately. But yeah, it's going to be a complicated thing, but I'm interested to see more. I'm interested to see how this goes.
And I'm interested to see your thoughts.
Yes.
On not 1, not 2, not 3, Not 4.
Well, no, just
not
3.
5.
Just 3.
Oh,
You
sorry.
can stop.
I got my LeBron and me going there.
So I have some thoughts. I listened to some music this week. I tried to get some new releases under my belt so I could talk about them. Also, because I plan on doing a semi-regular, at least when it's relevant, collection of music thoughts for every week for New Release Friday. I have not done that yet because I'm not quite done with the fourth of the 4 records I think I was going to listen to, maybe more. But I have 3 real quick hits that I want to talk about. One of which was a surprise release that kind of confused and baffled everyone. And I'll start with that one. You know Lil Yachty, the rapper? Yeah. Well,
wasn't he involved with Kardashians?
Yeah, I think he was, at least one of them. At least. That I know of. So I guess he's been known for experimenting with other genres in the past, but this might be his most ambitious experiment yet. He's put out a surprise record this Friday called Let's Start Here. And if you didn't know this was Lil Yachty, I think you'd be very confused with what this record is. It's a psychedelic rock record.
But he's a rapper.
I know. And some of it is kind of in a rap-like cadence, and he does sound like Lil Yachty. There's a lot of like call and response things that he's known for, and his brand of rap usually delivers. However, the instrumentation and the production are very much like a psychedelic rock record with some pop leanings every once in a while. It is one of the strangest, most interesting things I've heard in a very long time. This thing is all over the place. Some songs go longer than 6 minutes. It is like a rock record with Lil Yachty on it. And there's guest spots too. There's some guest artists that pop in every once in a while, but mostly it's him. There's even instrumentation done by bands that I'm familiar with, like one of my favorites from a couple years ago, Magdalena Bay actually does production on one of the songs here. And I was like, what? I was just like shocked. And you know what? The most shocking thing, I actually had a really good time with this thing. Yeah, it's just very ambitious. Like there's some wild stuff here happening production-wise. I don't love all the production. Like the sound of it, like is kind of mixed for me. It goes in and out of like sounding like too crunchy, too overproduced kind of stuff. But in general, there's some real bangers on this thing, and I was like, yeah. Again, I was surprised just by how well this whole thing turned out. I don't know if I'm going to return to it because it is a little long. There's maybe 1 or 2 mini tracks on this thing. It's about an hour. But man, if you want to try something different, and if you want to start this year by like, just like, I don't know, expanding your mind a little bit, this is definitely that. It's very psychedelic, very wild, very experimental, but still Lil Yachty, and sounds like Lil Yachty. I don't know how to describe it. You just have to try it for yourself, I guess.
So if you're looking to get into Lil Yachty,
yeah, I guess, or
should you start here?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. It's such a weird thing. It's such a unique animal that I'm not really sure if I should sell this to anybody. That being said, yeah, that sounds interesting. Check it out.
Okay.
It's bizarre, but it sounds pretty good, and I enjoyed my time with it. Which is the complete opposite of what I'm going to say about the next record. So, Sam Smith, arguably the biggest non-binary artist in the world. Definitely the most public and celebrity of representing non-binary people. A Grammy staple at this point, appears at a lot of award shows. And yeah, people were very excited for their next record, which is here, and it's called Gloria. Of course, we mentioned earlier in the top 5, Unholy, their hit with Kim Petras, is huge on radio and streaming. Everybody knows it and gets stuck in your head. Definitely gets stuck in my head. It's on this record, and it's surrounded by kind of boring, cliched pop music.
Yeah, I'm expecting piano ballads here.
There are a handful of piano ballads.
Yep.
Sam Smith was known as the ballad person for the first couple of releases of their career. This has a little bit more of a dance pop leaning elsewhere on it. Like besides those couple of ballads, they do kind of get on the dance floor a little bit. I think that we're firmly in the dance era of pop, you know, following Dua Lipa and Jessie Ware, and of course Beyonce's record
Renaissance.
And so it would be weird if Sam Smith didn't at least,
Try it.
throw their hat in the ring here, and they do.
Okay.
And that's probably the best parts. The best parts are when Sam Smith just allows themselves to get on the dance floor and have some fun, because that's when we love Sam Smith. Otherwise, though, the writing is pretty mediocre. The lyrics are boring. And a lot of the songs, even when they kind of start, revving up, the choruses are a little predictable, and I just did not have a very good time with it. So ultimately, my bottom line here is there's a reason why Unholy was the smash single, is because it's the most interesting thing happening here.
So more of just a single hit than the full concept album.
I think so. I think Unholy is probably the song to salvage from here. There's maybe one or two others that might be okay. But generally speaking, come on, Sam Smith. Like, you're more fun than this. You're more interesting than this. And you're more trailblazing than this. Like, you're important. And let's show that. Like, let's get that passion into the music. It sounded like an even less exciting version of kind of what Lizzo's record was last year.
But I like Lizzo's record.
Well, then maybe you'd like some of the stuff here.
But I don't know. But if you said it's less exciting, maybe I'd
a little
like
less
it.
exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Sam Smith, you can do better, is what I'm saying. Like, we believe in you, Sam Smith.
Oh, is he now falling into the category of do better?
I mean, not really. That sounds harsh. So,
It does.
But anyway, and then last but not least, and this is one that I think you will find especially interesting. Speaking of genre pivots.
Mm-hmm.
Lil Yachty was not the only one to do a little bit of a genre pivot this week. Elle King is back.
The former pop, former country now?
Pop. So I guess she was kind of a pop rock kind of thing before.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore, as we just alluded to. She's gone country.
Well, her last record was also country.
Well, this is even more, though.
What?
Yes, this is even more so. This is a straight up country record. Elle King is released a country record and is gunning for country radio.
Okay.
And this is called "Come Get Your Wife." And
very country title.
Yeah, it is very country. Like, she's completely leaning into the genre. Like, I would say all but one song, and I'll get to that in a second, is very like traditional, not necessarily traditional, like a mix between like modern country sound and occasionally a traditional sound. And you know what? She pulls it off pretty well. I think a lot of this, I imagine she probably partnered with a lot of established country writers here, because it definitely sounds like she just like already exists in the genre. Like there doesn't seem like there's any growing pains getting there. She just immediately like figured it out.
So she's been in it for at least 3 years now, I want to say.
Yeah.
Because she was at Stagecoach in 2019.
Okay.
So maybe 4 years now.
Well, yeah, this is definitely an arrival, because this sounds like a country record, and I imagine there'll be a couple of these that could very easily be a hit. Okay. The one weird exception, and I think the most interesting song on the record, is this duet that she does with Miranda Lambert, oddly enough. It is the least country thing on the record, even though Miranda Lambert is the guest artist. I had actually heard this before. They released it as a single last year. In fact, even before Palomino came out. And I remember reading about it and being like, well, this is weird. Like, this is the most poppy thing I've ever heard Miranda on. And so I thought that this record was going to be like that. The rest of it isn't, but that song is. So it's definitely got more of a pop construction to it than the rest of it. It's still country enough. It's got Miranda on it, for crying out loud. But like, the rest of it is more traditional. And I was actually kind of surprised by how easily she fit into it. That being said, there's one small caveat, and that's Elle King's voice. So similar to the Lil Yachty situation, the production on the vocals seems weirdly overproduced to me. It seems like Elle King still wanted that rock edge on her vocals, and that's in every single track here.
Ooh.
Which is, if you're into that, and if you want something to sound a little lower fi, like kind of more of like a AM radio kind of vibe, then maybe you'll like it. But it kind of bugged me, especially compared to the production of the actual song she was singing on. The exception is the last song on the record, where she actually kind of lets go and like sings more of a kind of a soul, kind of like a classic rock blues kind of thing. And it makes me think like, oh, that's what her voice is good at. So I'm a little mixed coming out of it about like how I feel about going full country is for her career. I think she can do it. She's established now that she can. But my question is if she should, because that last song kind of peeked back out of the window and was like, oh, she has a lot more that she can do with her voice outside of the country genre. I wish maybe she explored that a little bit more. But hey, as a country record, I think it'll do well, and I think this is probably a smart career move for Elle King. Is going to give her a audience that I think will be a little bit larger and a little bit more welcoming than I think the pop rock kind of appetite is right now. Even though Måneskin is consistently trying to change that.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yes, they are.
We'll see. But yeah, I had an okay time with it. I wasn't amazed by it, but I think that if you're more like, I think you guys should give this a shot, because if you're more in the country lane, this might do more for you.
Probably will. Yeah.
So then I got almost done with the Ava Max record as well, but I didn't have the time to finish it. But I liked what I heard of it. It's a straight down the line pop record. It's kind of like a cousin to Dua Lipa's record. So you might want to check that out too. I think you'd like it.
Ava Max?
Yeah, Ava Max's new thing. It's very dance pop.
Okay.
In kind of the Dua Lipa style.
Nice.
So maybe check that out.
All right.
Well, that's what I listened to. There's a couple more I didn't get to, but hey, look on the website, mediaboatpodcast.com, and see if I have that wrangling up for you in a few days.
All right. Like I said, I listened to the highlights.
Yep. Well, we've been over that.
We've been over that. So let's move right into video games.
Mm-hmm.
And we start with new releases.
We do.
Including Age of Empires 2, Definitive Edition.
Coming to console.
For Xbox Series X and Xbox One.
Yep.
This is formerly PC game, now getting the Xbox port.
Yes.
Also getting console release, Power Wash Simulator.
Yes.
For the PS4, PS5, and the Switch.
So if you have PlayStation or Switch and you're waiting for this is your chance.
Or if you have Xbox and you have Game Pass.
It's already there.
It's already there.
Yep.
We also have Season.
This was the other one I wanted to check out.
Season, A Letter to the Future for PS4, PS5, and PC.
I've heard good things about this. It's kind of a narrative adventure about a person returning to a small town. There's some more to it. I believe there's a little bit of a mystery happening there. Yeah, it seems cool. It looks really cool. It's got a cool art style. I probably will check this out and stream it for y'all.
Okay. There's also SpongeBob SquarePants, The Cosmic Shake.
Yes.
Coming to everything.
Yeah, this is the spiritual sequel to the GameCube PS2 era SpongeBob games after that re-release of one of those last year did so well.
Was it like the hydration, whatever?
I forget what it is. But yeah, this is a brand new SpongeBob game made in the spirit of those old ones.
So platformers.
Yes, platformers. They're back.
Yep. There's also We Were Here Forever for everything but the Switch.
Right.
Deliver Us Mars for everything but the Switch.
Here's Mars.
And lastly, for you Sonic fans out there.
It's not Sonic related.
Okay. Tails, The Backbone Preludes.
Yeah, not that Tails.
PC.
Not that Tails, and also not that Backbone.
But it is a prelude.
Yes, I guess so.
And that's for the PC.
All right.
Let's
move into news.
Let's move news. And Neil Druckmann's been on the press tour recently for The Last of Us TV show.
Yes.
So, as co-president of Naughty Dog, he's been asked a lot of questions about the other franchises that they own.
Right.
Other IPs. And one of them being the Uncharted series.
Yeah.
So, last year, we had the Uncharted movie.
Mm-hmm.
This year, we have Naughty Dog moving away from everything because of that movie.
Well, not really. I think this has less to do about the performance of the movie and more to do just, hey, they're a studio and they want to keep looking towards the future.
So Naughty Dog, as the Neil Druckmann said, for Naughty Dog as the studio, has quote unquote moved on from the Uncharted series and could do the same with The Last of Us should it decide not to proceed with a third mainline series entry. The Last of Us series has sold over 37 million copies since its debut in 2013 and is currently in the spotlight, as you mentioned,
yes,
thanks to the TV show. Naughty Dog is also developing a standalone Last of Us multiplayer game, which will include its own story and a new cast of characters, which was announced 2 years ago.
Right.
Despite the franchise's commercial and critical success, Druckmann has claimed that Naughty Dog's parent company, Sony, wouldn't pressure the company into continuing the story of Ellie and Abby that was told in 2020's Last of Us Part 2.
I mean, Sony knows better. They know not to look a gift horse in the mouth
Yes.
like that. Additionally, here, it's not any different from what they've done in the past. I mean, they did the same thing with the Jack and Daxter franchise. They did the same thing with Crash Bandicoot, even though Right Stuff is
Yes.
partially did it to thank
To
for
blame
that.
there.
But yeah, I think that Uncharted 4 was a proper ending to that franchise. I don't think you need another Uncharted game. I think that story ends there. That story ends with Nathan and Elena playing Crash Bandicoot on the couch, as it should. You don't need to tell more stories about those characters. I think that story is wrapped up.
Oh, you don't want to see Kid Drake?
No, I don't. I don't care about it. It's like that's not what you're there for. And yeah, I think it's smart for them to just be, like I said, constantly looking forward. As for whether The Last of Us should continue, this is interesting, and we'll get to it in cancellations and renewals, but they did also confirm a second season will happen of The Last of Us show. What will that be about? Who the hell knows? Because like I mentioned last week, you can't just jump into part 2.
Right. You can't
There's a
just
time jump.
You can't just instantly age them up.
So the question is like, what story does a part 2 say? Tell? What does Neil Druckmann have plans for? And would that get them inspired to make a third Last of Us game? I don't know. But
so we'll get
who
there.
knows?
But
Yeah.
how many seasons would you want before the introduction of Abby?
I mean, that's already a moot point for me because my answer is 1. I don't think you need to go beyond the first game because, well, I didn't care for part 2 that much. If you ask maybe somebody who likes part 2 more than me, then maybe. But I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if I have an appetite for it. Also, we're not done with season 1 yet. I feel like I won't know exactly how I feel about that world and those characters until I see how they end season 1.
Well, based off the previews of like the coming soon, and like the little clips that they show of like what to expect in the season, it does look like it goes through the full first game of the first season.
And I've heard especially interesting things going into tomorrow's episode. I feel like episode 3 apparently is where the shit hits the fan. I'm very excited to see. Also, Nick Offerman.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that next week. But back to the video games. I mean, they obviously, they should do what they do. I'm interested to see what they do with this multiplayer game. Also, I'm interested, now it's not a spoiler because that episode aired, last week's episode, but I want to see if they do something in that multiplayer game with the hive mind concept that they introduced in the television show. You're up to date, right?
Yeah.
You watched episode 2? Like the idea of like all of them being connected is not something they explored in the video game, and I'm interested to see if that gives them inspiration for this multiplayer game. Maybe.
See, I wonder if that's what they do with the. Well, I guess we'll get there with the second show, second season in TV. But if they just explore something completely different.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like another story they can tell in that world that's not about a life, like like a world-changing human being,
right?
And maybe there's some other stories they can tell. I don't know, or maybe it's backstory. Maybe they do kind of a prequel. They could do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we're combining video games and TV news.
Hey, but that's not new. That's not new for us.
No, especially since later this episode we will cover a video game and news TV related.
Yes, we will. Story. Let's move on.
Yes,
sex story.
We're gonna get to there. We move on into the world of Xbox.
Yes,
as Xbox has confirmed it will return to Los Angeles for a showcase this summer ahead of the first physical E3 show in 4 years. Summarizing its Developer Direct digital event in a blog post on Wednesday, the company wrote, quote, "As we announced previously, in order to dedicate the proper amount of time for a deep dive into Bethesda Game Studios' Starfield, a standalone show is in the works. In addition to this, our teams are working hard and looking forward to sharing even more of what's next for our fans when we return to Los Angeles for our yearly showcase this summer."
So this is an interesting story.
That's the Xbox PR voice.
Yeah, basically. So this is an interesting story because this is the first of the major studios to confirm that they will be at E3, unquote, unquote. Now that it's back to being a physical show. It's also one of the only interesting things that came out of their developer showcase, which Microsoft did this week. More or less, we knew it wasn't going to be a huge announcement show, that we knew it was going to be about games that we already knew about, just talking to developers about them. We did get a handful of release dates. We did get confirmation. This was probably the most interesting thing outside of the two actual announcements, which were Hi-Fi Rush, which I'll talk about, and GoldenEye 007 dropping. So that's available now on the Xbox on Game Pass and the Switch on the expansion pack.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have either of those things, hey, you can play some GoldenEye. I might jump on that later today.
And I have neither of those things.
Well, too bad. Yeah, not PC Game Pass.
Yes.
Apparently console only. Anyway, but yeah, so it was kind of not necessarily something that had a lot of news out of it, but this was the one exception. It'll be interesting to see whether Sony commits. They probably won't, considering that even back when E3 was physical, they had dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
So that window, we're watching that window to see if anybody else pops in.
And then don't expect anything from Nintendo because they'll just do their treehouse.
Always do it. So yeah, interesting nonetheless, especially in this weird time for Xbox after they just laid off so many people and are in the midst of a legal battle with the government.
It will be interesting. Although I don't think you see a Sony booth. I think you just see PlayStation Studios.
If even that is what I'm saying. Because like I said, even when it was physical before COVID, they didn't show. So I don't know. We'll see.
Show all the first party games. That's what E3's for.
Well, what do they have? I'm trying to think of what they would show.
New Naughty Dog IP, because they currently don't care about Uncharted anymore.
I guess this multiplayer thing.
Multiplayer?
I don't know. What do they show?
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2. There you go. That's probably their fall game.
Yeah, that's their flagship. That's what they're going to leave
Because
with.
at that point, even Final Fantasy 16 will be out.
Yeah,
or like around July. That time in those couple weeks. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Unless everything gets out of the way for Tears of the Kingdom. Is that June or July?
That I don't know. That's August, July or August. Maybe that's July, June or July.
So it'd be that
summer.
Then. Yeah, summer.
We'll see. All right.
So, okay, you just buried the lead there.
Yes.
You played a game.
Yes, I played one of those games that was released and announced at the same time at the Xbox Developer Showcase. And that is Tango Gameworks' Hi-Fi Rush. Now, if Tango Gameworks sounds familiar, they're the developer of the Evil Within games, 1 and 2. And also last year's Ghostwire Tokyo, which was released to kind of mixed reviews.
Okay.
This is their new game published by Bethesda. And it was a huge surprise for everybody, and including me. It is like nothing I've ever played before. It is a rhythm game, action game. So think of
platformer.
Platformer. Think of like Devil May Cry mixed with like a rhythm game, and you get more or less what Hi-Fi Rush is. It's really cool. It's a really cool game. So I streamed about an hour of it, the second level of that. If you want to check it out, that's on MediaBoatPodcast.com or on our YouTube channel. And for the next 6 days on twitch.tv/MediaBoat. But yeah, if you want to check that out, it's really, really cool. So that's on Game Pass and also available on Steam if you're a PC person. And yeah, it's really, really cool. So basically, you play as this guy, Chai, who has somehow, because of a weird organization that is experimenting on people, has a MP3 player lodged into his chest. And because of this, he can do crazy rhythm-based combat moves. So he has this like robot arm that has magnetic powers, and he can like grab things with it. And this turns into basically a guitar-shaped sword in which he does battle with. And all of your combos in combat are based on the rhythm of the song that's playing in the world. And it's not just original songs either. The boss battles here are licensed songs. The first boss, for example, is a Nine Inch Nails song that plays alongside of it. So the rhythm is important to combat because the more you hit do your hits on beat, the more damage they'll do and the more successful your combos will be. So it plays with that in different ways. There's combos you can buy that actually play with like timing too. So if you're musically inclined, it might be easier for you to do more damage and earn better scores on the combat scenarios depending on your like mastery of that beat.
So button mashing is frowned upon.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. But the rest of the game though does encourage you to be on beat as much as possible. The whole world while you're going through it is pulsing with the beat of the song. There's even like a meter you can pull up by pressing the menu button that is straight up shows you the beat of the song. Your little cat partner like also glows with the beat. So the whole game is telling you stay on beat, because it's so crucial to how the combat works. You can buy extra combos from the store to like flesh out your options in battle. And everything feels super, super good when you execute it. Like, it's super stylish. The look of the game is really cool. It goes seamlessly from 3D to 2D animation in the cutscenes to like sometimes a hybrid of both. And there's constant music happening. The characters are well designed. Everything is colorful and really pops. I'm having a great time with this game. And seeing how available it is, even not on Game Pass, this is only $30. It's a great deal for something that seems pretty meaty too. I'm only I'm only a couple hours in. I'm only 2 levels in, so there's a lot to play here. I think fans of like games like Sunset Overdrive. This is not a shooter, but it definitely has a lot of Sunset Overdrive's like style to it.
Yeah.
And also Ratchet and Clank comparisons are pretty easy to make here, as well as Devil May Cry.
There's some cell shaded too, as well.
Yeah, and so like
and the art style, very comic booky.
It's very comic booky, and yeah, there's a lot to like here. Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush. It's really, really cool. Worth giving a shot. I will probably play more of that on stream, maybe later today, depending on how GoldenEye goes. Yeah, it's what I recommend though. If you have a sound setup, if you're playing on console, for example, and you have a sound setup that's maybe has a little bit of audio lag, you might have some difficulty with combat.
Can you retool it?
So no, there doesn't seem to be a Rock Band style calibration option. So I recommend checking your lag, playing on PC if you can with some headphones, because that's probably the ideal situation here. Because yeah, that beat matters. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it.
That's Hi-Fi Rush. Like I said, I watched you play this on the stream. It looked really good. It looked really fun.
It's fun.
I really like the art style to it. It's very graphically pleasing.
Oh yeah, no, it's cool to look at.
It's the snappy dialogue too.
Oh, yeah, that I didn't even mention the writing. I actually really am enjoying the writing, which is topical. There's been a big conversation happening in games Twitter this week about dialogue, especially between this game and Forspoken, which we kind of briefly brought up last week. And yeah, it's interesting how like similar they are in theoretically, and how different they are in execution, because it seems like this one actually does fun, witty writing correctly, and I'm finding myself laughing at a lot of the dialogue here. So yeah, I love the world. I love the characters. I'm very excited to see where it goes. The story itself, though, kind of forgettable, I will say. I don't really understand what the company that I'm fighting against does, why I'm there, who these do, like what their plans are. I have no idea, but I'm along for the ride. The rest of it's so fun that I don't really care if I don't really understand what the motives are. So yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah. I've been playing Star Wars.
Okay.
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yes.
That is the PlayStation Plus free game for the month. Playing it ahead of the sequel released later this year.
Yes.
I did play it when it originally came out, mainly because it was an EA game, and that was 2018,
right?
When EA was not the best on everyone's mind.
But yeah, it reviewed pretty well back then.
I mean, it was nominated for Game of the Year.
It was.
Although, when you're going up against God of War, which eventually won, yeah. But I'm having a fun time with it. Cool. A lot of adventuring into it, a lot of platforming, but also the slow unlocking of all of the force powers makes you feel a bit more powerful as the more you progress. You keep saying that people compare it to like a Souls-like game.
Yeah, initially they did.
But isn't like the whole purpose of Souls game that you don't really like level up that much that you can beat everything as you are from the beginning.
I think that's why it was Souls-like and not like a straight up Souls game.
Okay.
Is because I think it simplifies a lot of that a little bit more than the Souls games does. I think people were making that comparison because of the combat being very parry based.
Oh yeah, I can see that though.
But yeah, player progression is simplified because I think they want it to be more accessible because it's a Star Wars game.
It is a Star Wars game.
So, but yeah, there were some comparisons.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really surprised that this was done by Respawn.
Yeah, I know. They have some range as a studio, it turns out.
But I'm having really fun with it.
Yeah, cool.
Like I said, I'm only about 2-3 hours into the game,
Mhm.
but what I've played so far, it's actually getting me really excited to play the sequel coming out. So I'm probably gonna get that game flagged kind of day one if I can. So
Nice. Cool.
I'm playing that off stream. I might stream it on. So I figured out my stream schedule.
Okay. All right.
Mondays and Fridays.
Okay.
I have a block there of an hour for
All right,
Mondays
cool.
and Fridays.
And I got Tuesdays and Thursdays, so that works out perfect.
Perfect.
All right. So, and maybe Saturdays, depending.
Yes.
But yeah, well, cool. You'll have to check back in once you get a little further in that.
Yep, I'll check back in there.
Last thing I want to mention real quick because I was reminded by the television or the screen in front of me here.
Yes.
Right now in Fortnite, there is the Kid Leroy has an event happening right now. If you care at all about the Kid Leroy, go on to Fortnite. There's a special level right now. He does the kind of performance / level thing that other artists have done in the past, like Ariana Grande and Travis Scott.
Yeah.
You can also buy him in the game and play as him. The thing that they did with him is actually kind of interesting. I don't really care about the Kid Leroy, but the way you kind of play through his music is actually really cool. And like, yeah, it's like a neat experiment in a virtual concert. Where you're actually there's an interactive component while the Kid Leroy is performing. And it's neat, and it's really hard to explain without actually experiencing it. But yeah, it's some fun with that, and I got experience in Fortnite, so I was like, hey, sure, I got something out of this.
Cool.
So yeah, it's a neat little thing. It's alive, I believe, on Fortnite until April, so you've got a few months to check it out. But yeah. Even for someone who didn't care about the Kid Leroy at all, it was a neat little thing, and I'm glad that they're trying those experiments kind of in Fortnite because it's a neat little deal.
Hey, that's all good.
That's all there. So yeah, that's it. That's what I played this week.
And yep, aside from continuing to play more Marvel Snap, that's all I played this week.
Well, cool. Then we can move on.
All right, let's go right then into television.
And we always start the television section with the sports corner. You have sports entertainment here starting up the section here with the Royal Rumble happening.
That is tonight.
That is tonight. So and that's on Peacock?
Yes, it is.
So tune in to Peacock to get your wrestling action tonight with the Royal Rumble.
30 men enter, 30 women enter, not at the same time. 50 people in a ring.
Because God forbid.
But only one winner will punch their ticket to WrestleMania main event.
Well, we will see. In the meantime, though, other real sports are happening.
Hey.
Yes, Brian Gumbel's Real Sports. NFL championship games have been decided. We'll get there. Yes, the NFL championship games have been decided. You were wrong about the Bills.
Oh, yes.
The 49ers and the Eagles, and then the second game will be the Chiefs and the Bengals. So who do you have? Who are your picks?
I really want to say I don't want to say the Eagles. I don't want to say the 49ers. I don't like either of them.
Well, too bad.
So everyone here in this household is on the Joe Burrow train.
Yes.
We're rooting for the Bengals because they should have won last year.
Yeah.
They just unfortunately went up against an all-star team
right.
of like the quarterback and receiver and defensive player of the year just all balling out of their minds in that season, which is why the Rams won.
Also, that's a more interesting game, right? If the Bengals, because I mean, we've seen a Chiefs Super Bowl. We've seen Mahomie do his thing at the big game. Maybe give somebody else a shot.
Yes, but granted, we've also haven't seen him in the actual big game in 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years. But still.
We should only think that because he's made it to the championship game for the past 5 seasons.
You're right. But yeah, it should be interesting to see how these shake out.
Yep. And then Eagles and Niners. Really interesting to see if the Niners pull it off because Mr. Irrelevant is their quarterback.
Yes,
now.
That's been kind of the story coming into these championship games is out of nowhere, this man is making it happen.
Yep, Mr. Irrelevant is currently 8-0 as a starter for the
Mr.
Niners.
Mr. Increasingly Relevant, turns out. That's what they should call him.
Uh,
So yeah, what a story, and yeah, what's some games, some serious games coming up here.
Yeah.
Is that today and tomorrow, or just tomorrow?
it's just tomorrow. Both
Just
games
tomorrow?
are tomorrow for
Okay.
Sunday. And then the following week will be the Pro Bowl. And then the week
Yes.
after that.
Speaking of
Is
which, yes, Pro Bowl starts on Thursday with the flag football game on Sunday, February 5th.
So on Thursday, it is the skills competitions.
Right.
And then I'm covering that now because we won't get to it by the time we get to
Yes.
next podcast.
Yes.
But then the skill competition will continue and then end with a flag football game.
Okay. Well.
Yep, on Sunday. Both the Manning brothers have picked their players between the AFC and the NFC.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Well, we'll
it's in
see.
Vegas again.
Oh well, always. It's fun.
Yep. So Pro Bowl in Vegas.
And you're not going this time?
No, not this year. I went last
Not
year.
this All right. Let's move on to hockey, which has their All-Star game this Saturday, February 4th.
Yep. Like I said, much like with the Pro Bowl, they have it in the same week.
Yeah.
The skills competition is on Friday with the game covering next Saturday. So
Cool.
making that mention here
Yep.
in case either I forget next week or just
Yep.
like, hey, set your DVRs.
Yes.
Giving you the week notice.
Moving on to baseball. Scott Rowland was the only player elected to the Hall of Fame this year.
From the Baseball Writers
Yes.
of America.
Correct. Off ballot, though.
Meaning these people are no longer eligible to be on the ballot.
Right, sadly. Mike Napoli, John Lackey, Andre Ethier, Jacob E. Ellsbury, and Jared Weaver.
Womp womp.
Yeah, some surprising names that will never be in the Hall of Fame there.
Like I said, unless special committees
asterisk.
later.
Asterisk.
Yes,
Yeah.
unless special committees. But yeah.
Recognize Lackey and Weaver as hometown favorites.
Yes, as hometown pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
And then Big Mike Napoli as well.
Just yeah, it makes you wonder how maybe they should consider reworking how the Hall of Fame works.
It's a 75% vote.
Yeah, well.
But then again, you don't have to use all your votes. It's who of this list do you deem eligible? And if, as a writer, you think only one person is eligible, you can put only one person on the ballot.
Right. Before we move on from baseball, I want to add a couple of ancillary stories since you don't have them.
Oh, the local stories?
Well, they're not really that local when you consider the impact of it.
Oh, you're talking about the Bally Sports.
Well, it's both of those.
Okay.
I was going to mention both. The one that you mentioned is kind of a local story, but I think it actually is bigger than that, considering it may decide the future of Shohei Ohtani.
Yes.
Is that, yes, we had reported previously here that Angels owner Arte Moreno was going to sell the team. He had planned on it. He had said that they were negotiating with potential buyers.
Note how he said was.
Yes. Well, not anymore. This past week, they released a press release that said that the team is no longer looking to be bought and that the Morenos will continue ownership of the team of the Angels for the foreseeable future.
Well, they were only offered $3 billion.
God. So yeah, details ended up kind of trickling out the days after that, saying that there were interested buyers that were going to spend a lot of money on it. And ultimately, I guess Artie was just convinced that he wanted to keep them. Too much to the chagrin of Angels fans worldwide.
Yes.
The worry now has to do with Ohtani, is that it seems like probably the rest of the teams were going to be like, obviously they were going to keep him. If there was a new ownership, they would probably be like, no, the reason why we're buying this is because Ohtani is a world-class superstar and we want to keep him. Artie might not believe that. And maybe that's one of the reasons why he wanted to keep his grubby mitts on the team, is that he gets to decide ultimately what Ohtani's fate is. And maybe he thinks it's a better idea to see what they can get for Ohtani.
Well, you could sell him to the Yankees for $1 billion.
Oh, easily. I mean, God, can you imagine a team with Ohtani and Aaron Judge on it? Jesus Christ. So yeah, it's bad news though, ultimately, I think, for a lot of people, for Angels fans and for the league as a whole, because I think as long as Arte Moreno is in charge, that team is never going to be what we want it to be, and never going to live up to the potential I think that the Angels could have.
Or he just had a change of heart in that this past year he had the 20-year celebration of winning the World Series. And he was like, we could have done this.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. And I said this in our kind of group chat conversation is he wants to be the man that people think is
Mhm.
ultimately, if there is potential with the team and if they do pull it out this year, which
Yes.
I still don't have faith in it. I got way too ambitious with my
Last
hopes
year.
last season. I got them dashed.
Well, yeah,
And
that's
so
because they
now
had the
this
big
season,
fight. They had the big fight with the Mariners, and then
Yeah.
everything went downhill from
right,
there.
the Mariners jinxed us. And then so this season I'm coming in with a little bit more metered expectations. That being said, if we do pull it off, Moreno's going to be at the first thing and be like, well, obviously it was because I stuck around.
Mhm.
That's what he wants. He wants to be like to take the responsibility for it, which
Yeah.
sucks. The other story that you also mentioned that does actually have local implications potentially is the potential implosion of the Bally Sports regional networks. So the parent company, I guess, of this organization is potentially looking at Chapter 11 bankruptcy
Yep.
because financials just didn't shake out the way that they wanted to in this coming year. If that happens, it will go hand in hand with what we talked about last week, which is the league is trying to figure out how to even approach regional sports networks in terms of blackout dates.
Yes.
Because of how many teams that are under this Bally Sports deal would be affected by bankruptcy, that decision might be sped up, and they might be looking at making that decision during this season as opposed to later.
Hey, it might be why they were exploring it in the first place,
It
because
might
someone
be.
tipped them off that, hey,
It's possible.
Bally might not be around by the time like March or April comes.
So here's the thing so you're probably asking, well, what happens if this happens? And this is why it's a potentially earth-shattering deal for Major League Baseball. Teams like the Angels are probably okay. Most of their money from the Angels comes from things outside of their TV deal. Their TV deal is part of their financial picture, but it's not the entirety of it.
And
however,
your big teams
yes, your big teams are fine.
Are fine. Like your Dodgers, your Yankees, your Astros,
your Angels, and your Dodgers.
Yeah.
But like, well, the Dodgers have a different deal, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But there are smaller teams that have deals with Bally where a lot of their revenue comes from Bally, and they rely on that TV deal. So if that just snaps and they then have to absorb the basically the rights and take control of that, they don't know what they're doing. They can't just magically make TV broadcasts come out of pocket. Like, yes, I know you'd love to do that. I don't think that's a one-man operation, unfortunately.
Hey, I've done a one-man operation before.
That's
Highly not recommended.
don't recommend it. And so yeah, like it's very possible that they'll have to take on a lot of responsibility and all of a sudden won't be able to pull it off. And then that is a huge financial hit for those smaller teams. This could be disastrous for them if this happens and they don't have a backup plan. That brings in the league. Then it's the league's responsibility to figure that out for them. And that goes to trying to figure out this new TV deal. So there's probably a best case scenario and a worst case scenario here that I've been thinking about this week. Best case scenario is they immediately figure out we just need to do away with blackout dates for MLB TV and just throw everything on that, have a league-owned just subscription service that anybody can watch any game. Boom. Basketball does it. Why can't you? The worst case scenario is even though the Bally stuff just disappears, they just hand some also equally as bad cable conglomerate that still requires you, that just hands all of the rights as existing over to them, and then we just live this again. And then you have a new system that you have to have a cable subscription to sign up for, blackout dates remain, and then you're just screwed. And then everybody is still in the same boat that they're in now, which is having to pay for cable for one channel.
Or best case scenario, MLB TV does streaming on MLB TV, or there's Peacock, there's HBO Max.
Yeah, that's the other possibility here. Is
they have this streaming deal with Apple.
I could
just go to Apple.
I could see that. That would be good for me.
Yes.
But what I'm saying, that's why I didn't say that's the best case scenario, is because then people who aren't already in the Apple TV ecosystem then are forced to do so.
Yeah.
And you already saw people angry about that when it was just the occasional Friday game.
Yep.
If all of a sudden it became, oh, I can't watch my local team at all unless I'm an Apple TV Plus person, I think a lot of people would be justifiably angry about that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I said the best case scenario is just one service that gives you everything. Because
like I said, that's MLB
again,
TV.
If the NBA can do it, everyone else can. I don't know why
NFL Sunday Ticket does it.
I don't know why it's like pulling teeth for these other leagues to realize It's consistent revenue.
Yeah, but you do realize that even the Baseball Writers of America are all 70 years old.
Yes, that's true. They don't understand what streaming is.
Yes.
So yeah, I think this is potentially brewing to become a very important story this year in sports. So I'm shocked that you left it off of this week's news.
Well, I don't want too much sports stories. Also, I am both shocked and happy that you are talking so much about sports right now.
Hey, no, I told you I'm all in this year. And if this gives me an easier way to absorb more baseball, then I'm all for it. But
Mhm.
I'm worried that the worst case scenario is more likely.
I know we talked about off podcasts about
Yeah.
this, but why isn't there like a red zone version
There
of
needs
the
to be.
baseball games?
There needs to be. I would love a service that just shows me, a huge, like a grand slam just happened in the Mariners game, and it just
Mhm.
shows you real quick. Or it's like, oh shoot, a really impressive double play happened over in I don't know,
In
in
Detroit.
Minnesota or something. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to see like clips like that just show me in real time, like, oh, cool thing just happened, red zone style.
Mhm.
I know why you can't do that, because it would have to be on practically 24/7.
Well, not only that, but you'd have to have you have to have designated start times
Mhm.
for every game.
It would be impossible to implement, and it would be a rights nightmare, which is why they can't do it.
Yep.
But man, do I want it. Just
Too many
whatever.
games.
Too many games. But yeah, that's I think probably the biggest sports story of the week.
All right.
Well, we'll have a
Well-
lot to cover next week. We'll have our champions for our conferences in the NFL in the NFL next week. So we'll know our Super Bowl matchup.
And then in 2 weeks, I think it's 2 weeks,
Mhm.
pitchers and catchers start reporting.
Yes.
3 weeks. It's the fourth. It's right after Valentine's Day here.
Yeah, and then the week after that the weekend after that will be the first games of
Yep.
spring training. So get ready. Spring training is almost upon us.
Baseball's almost here.
Sign up for your services now, or at least when they go up. I checked. MLB TV's not up yet.
Yep.
Believe me, I looked. All right, let's move on to our first story in television proper.
Well-
Actually, no, we're not done with sports. You're right.
Yes.
I forgot. Tennis happens.
Yes. The Australian Open
Yes.
wrapping up.
Because it's easy to forget this, but it's summer down in Australia,
Yep.
and they are playing the Australian Open Women's Singles Championship. The number 5 ranked Aryna Sabalenka beat the number 22 ranked Elena Rybakina, and later,
Later, meaning tomorrow.
in the
It's
men's
singles.
the men's singles, you have media boat infamous, not so much favorite Djokovic,
Novak Djokovic.
yes, versus Stefanos. Oh boy, Tsitsipas. Why are all 4 of these have terrible names to pronounce? Anyways, you set me up to
Because
fail.
international tournament.
Set me up to fail on these. So that's tennis. I don't have
Yes.
anything to say about that.
Congratulations to Anya.
Yeah.
You literally won like an hour ago as
Well,
of this recording.
breaking news. There you go.
And then good luck to Stefanos. Please beat Novak, maybe.
We would like that. Yes. All right, let's move on now to television news.
Now we get to the big story of the week.
Yeah, it's a follow-up to our previous story last week about
Video games.
everyone's favorite Szechuan sauce influencer, Justin Roiland, aka Rick and Morty, etc. Adult Swim. After we basically called out everybody that was in partnership with Justin last week for not saying anything.
Mhm.
Well, this week everybody said something.
Yep.
Adult Swim cut ties officially with Justin Roiland in the wake of the news, of course, of his felony charge. The network released a statement that Rick and Morty, however, would continue through its already contracted 10th season with a vocal recast. So he
they're
does the
in-
voices of the main 2 characters.
Yep.
He will no longer be the voices. They will recast those characters. Also, he will no longer be involved in the writing or creation of the show going forward.
Yep. They're in season 7
Yeah.
of their 10-season deal.
Yeah.
So
So that means, of course, Roiland will still be credited as co-creator because, rules say that you can't undo that.
yes.
But Dan Harmon will now be the lone showrunner moving forward. Even though, from what I understand, the last few seasons, it's mostly just been Dan Harmon anyways.
Mhm.
And then apparently Justin was just showing up to do the do the lines.
Well, that's because he also has hands in other projects.
Well, it turns out those other projects are also removing him, including Hulu's Solar Opposites and Koala Man, which both had his voice and creative input, will no longer as well.
Yep.
Meanwhile, 20th Television Animation, where Roiland had an overall deal with produces both series of those, has also cut ties, so nothing forward in the future will happen with Roiland's involvement either. Koala Man, which premiered on January 9th, comes from creator Michael Cusack and showrunners Benji Samit and Dan Hernandez. Both it and Solar Opposites are slated to continue without Roiland's involvement. Roiland, of course, has pleaded not guilty to those domestic violence charges stemming from that 2020 incident. We'll see how the case progresses. Also related to this, Squanch Games, the developer of recently released High on Life, also has cut ties with Justin Roiland, will no longer be working with him, but development will continue on future projects.
Mm-hmm.
So, not a great week to be Justin Roiland. Hollywood has officially washed hands of him, as everybody hoped that they would.
I mean, that text messages exchange got released, and everyone was like, "Yep, that's too much for us.
We're done." So yeah, again, legally we have to say that no charge is actually, no sentencing has happened here.
Yes.
But what we have to say is, hey, Hollywood, has to. If you're going to do business with somebody, you have to make sure that you know everything that's going on with that person, and they've ultimately decided it was too complicated of a matter to be involved with.
Yep. That's why I know everything that's going on with you.
Yeah, way to go. I'm gonna wash my hands with that. This finally, some actual comeuppance.
Hey, good news for the year.
Yeah, honestly, this took a little too long, in my opinion, but now that it's finally done, I guess the question is Rick and Morty the same going forward? Do they find sound alikes? Do they try something completely different, voice-wise, like with those characters? What do you do?
I mean, Rick and Morty, like I said, has gone on through 6 seasons, 7 seasons. So much like with Big Mouth, did it, and much like with the Cleveland Show, did it.
Yeah,
there are good sound alikes out there. There are good voice actors out there who can provide a good sound alike.
Yeah,
and even if it's not a perfect sound alike, guess what? Rick and Morty is multiverse.
You can literally make an in-universe excuse for.
Yes.
That'll take 3 seconds to explain. It's like a line of dialogue. It's like, oh well, we got rid of those other ones. Now we're the permanent ones.
Or either that, or someone shot out our voice boxes. We have these new mechanical voice boxes for our episode.
Yeah.
End of the episode, here's the new voice.
Oh yeah, and don't be surprised if I ad-lib way less.
Yes. No, what? I'm
burping gone.
I've given up drinking. Yeah. No more drinking.
No more burping anymore. I don't know. It just sort of happened.
Don't just write that into the story.
Yeah.
He's been tracking me through my drinking. I've been tracked through my drinking. That's it. No more.
Morty was the drinking. Morty. All right. Anyways, let's move on before we continue doing Rick and Morty impressions.
Hey, if we do the right enough impressions, maybe they'll hire us.
All right. Let's move on to our second story here. Amazon is developing a TV series based on the Tomb Raider video game franchise. I could have seen this coming a mile away. We talked about this.
Kind of did.
We did cover this. With scripts written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
And that's the headline.
That's the twist.
So we knew that they were already developing this because MGM.
Yeah.
Since they purchased it.
Right.
But
this is why they made such a big deal like, oh, we're not making a movie. It's because you're making a TV show. God damn.
Didn't we say they're making a TV show?
Yeah, we called this. Details are light on this new Tomb Raider series, but The Hollywood Reporter says that while Waller-Bridge will serve as a writer and executive producer, she won't be Lara Croft, so don't get too excited.
It's okay. If you want to see her in Lara Croft light or esque, she will be in the upcoming Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I forgot about that. The actress, writer, producer is also developing Sign Here, an adaptation of Claudia Lux's book, with the author attached to write the script. The Tomb Raider show will have to compete. Oh my God, I'm not talking to you, Sarah. Siri. Sarah. I was thinking of Lara.
Yes.
Whatever. Sarah, with the a lot of other video game adaptations in the works. Yes, it's a popular time to make video game shows. Yes. Netflix is, of course, still making a Horizon Zero Dawn series. Peacock is developing Twisted Metal. Amazon announced also God of War in December, and Sony's Gran Turismo movie is set to premiere this August. So
this is also in addition to Arcane, also over at Netflix.
Yes.
As well as
Last
As
of
we
Us,
mentioned,
which
The Last of Us.
continues. Yeah, it's big time to
Yep.
do that shit. So strike while the iron is hot, as they say.
You know all these conventions that people have been going on, putting on these costumes?
Yeah.
Turns out you can hire those people and they'll do it full time.
Turns out. Who knew?
Took someone like, God, 15 years to
I know.
realize that?
Yeah, I feel like this is a long time coming, especially with how popular video games have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're here. We've arrived.
We've arrived. It's our time now.
I guess so. Let's move on to television thoughts. We watched a lot of TV.
Oh,
this
we
week.
watched so much TV.
Don't worry, mine are going to be fast. So why
Oh.
don't you do yours first? What the hell is Physical 100?
All right. So this is a South Korean based competition
Got it.
out on Netflix.
Okay.
Where it poses the single question:
Yes.
what is the optimal physique body type?
That's a good question.
Because everyone
The
has
answer is mine.
yes. The answer is always your own. Be comfortable in your own body.
Mine is the dad bod.
But in terms of a competition,
yes.
there's people train for all types of things. There are people who train for modeling bodies,
Mhm.
people who train for stunt
Yeah.
work, firemen,
bodybuilders,
competitions,
swimmers.
Yeah,
they're all different
Olympic
bodies.
athletes, gymnasts, even like influencers, like YouTube influencers.
Somehow, yes.
That there's all these different body types out there. So, what's the optimal body type? And that's what Physical 100 aims to answer.
Interesting.
Where they have literally the running spectrum of body types out there. Like I said, from everyone that I've listed, even an MMA fighter in there as well.
Yeah.
And so there's 100 people, both men and women, to determine what is the absolute physique, the optimal physique for people.
Yeah.
It's really cool and really interesting. It takes the concept of Squid Game of putting 100 people in a competition, but eliminates all the killing aspects.
I was gonna say
it.
this is non-fictional.
Yes, it's not fictional. Yeah, eliminates all of like the
no one dies.
Yeah, no one dies.
Thank God.
Eliminates kind of like the whole like Alice in Borderlands aspect of it as well,
Right.
where it's life or death situations. It's straight up competition amongst your peers. So the first 2 episodes are out. It can be subtitled, but it can also be dubbed because Netflix, which we'll talk about later in movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm having a fun time with it. It has South Korean drama ties into it as a get through everybody of who's like you should like be on the lookout for.
Yeah.
And kind of goes to their backstories of why they're here. But one of the real interesting thing is that once you're eliminated, you have to destroy your bust. Yes, that's the reaction I was looking for. So in the beginning, they have all the different body types scattered around because they take a model of everyone's chest, upper body chest. So like first episode, everyone like sizing up this person and that person. But when you lose and are eliminated, you have to physically destroy your plastered bust. It was like my body is not good enough. Bam. Which is hilarious.
Wow.
But also, it's a really good competition. I really kind of hope they bring it to the U.S.
Okay.
Make a U.S. version of this thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, lots of different body types, lots of different kind of gym mentalities on it too.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the CrossFit people. They all have the exact same mentality no matter where you go.
Well, yeah, I know. Yeah.
But it's funny because like they're in here, they're very pompous, but then when they lose to the firefighter, they're like, "Oh, how's he doing better than me?" Grr, CrossFit, grr.
always.
But it's hilarious. I really like it. 2 episodes are out right now on Netflix. I'm looking forward to the remainder of these. That's a weekly offering.
All right, sounds good.
Also on Netflix this week.
Yes.
That 90s show.
Yeah, I'll be brief here. I had a little bit of a 90s sitcom week where I watched a couple of pilots. Mm-hmm. I technically watched these last week, but I forgot to talk about it because these are not brand new. This is kind of a week old, but I'll just be brief. So that 90s show is a continuation of sorts of that 70s show. Don't worry, it has nothing to do with the failed Fox 80s show, which was awful. But no, the 90s show continues the continuity of the 70s show. So you have a lot of the characters from that show returning here in their in their 90s incarnations.
Well, it is 20 years later.
It takes place in 1995, which is important. to mention. It mostly is about the daughter of the of what's his name's character.
Ashton Kutcher.
No,
Mila Kunis.
no, that's the other couple.
Oh,
The main character, what's his
Topher
name?
Grace.
Topher Grace. Thank you. Topher Grace's daughter is the star here, who is a teenager, and she decides she wants to live with her grandparents, aka the parents from the original, and so they're back playing the same characters, looking much older, as you would imagine.
Playing the grandparents now.
And all the original teenagers from the show, which are now the parents, they show up in a cameo like status. In the pilot, there are most of them there, except of course members of the show that say are sex criminals who are not on the show. But yeah, talking about of course Danny Masterson.
Yes.
But everybody else is returned here and for at least cameos. And I think if you have nostalgia for that 70s show, this works a little better. If you don't, it's pretty boilerplate sitcom fare here.
Now, what if I have nostalgia for the 90s?
Well, there's a little bit of that here. The 90s jokes are very hit or miss. I talked about this briefly on some of my Fortnite streams this week. If you want to hear some more beat by beat thoughts about this, but
Fortnite.
Yes, but yeah, it's fine. Some of the references worked for me. I got some chuckles, but most of them were pretty misses. Like it's a sitcom-ass sitcom, and they really lean towards that kind of classic style. So, if you're expecting that, and if you want that kind of nostalgia hit of that show that you liked, there's a lot there. There's a lot of callbacks to the original series. It's fine, but it's not great. It's not earth-shattering. But if you want to see that, all your favorites from that show, well, most of them, appear, then they're here, and that's available to you. And it's all up on Netflix, so if you just want to see all of it, it's there.
All 10 episodes?
Yeah, I believe so.
Were you a fan of that 70s show?
Nah, I thought it was fine.
Right.
I thought it was fine. My parents watched it. I really wasn't super engaged in it because I was a little young for it, but it's fine. Also in 90s sitcom corner here, just to get this done, I watched the NBC reboot of Night Court.
I also watched this last week. I forgot to talk about it. Did you get past the pilot?
I only watched the pilot.
Okay.
I actually thought this was a little better than the 90s show. I, of course, also have more affinity for Night Court than I do that 70s show, so that might be part of it. But I feel like Night Court's one reason for existing is that everybody wanted to work with John Larroquette. Because that's the one person that they got from the original series to come back. Well, unfortunately, because the star is unfortunately now dead. So he was one of the ones that they had to get. And yeah, I think that that's the reason for this existing. And as a showpiece for John Larroquette's continued talent, it works because he's really good in this. And they let him kind of just go and do his thing. And that's probably the best part of this. The rest of it, everything on the periphery, especially the new star, which is the daughter of the original star in canon, of course, and it's just fine. Again, I think it has the same problem as that 90s show, which is it leans a little too heavy on trying to imitate the original and hit the same kind of beats. Like, oh, look at this goofy person that's in the court now. And it's just a little too goofy, and it's not. I don't know. It's got a tone issue. It's a little up and down tone wise. I was at least more interested by the end of the pilot to see where they go with it than I was with the 90s show. But still, again, it 100% relies on your nostalgia for the original thing. I think the best, and we've talked about this before, the best reboots are the ones that don't need you to 100% be in love with the thing that it's a rebooting. The best ones are the ones that take it and do a new twist on it. This is not that. This is the same old, same old. Watch it for John Larroquette. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot here.
So I saw a review that said that it gets better.
Okay.
So I actually watched the first 3 episodes of it.
All right.
Because they're all available on Peacock now.
Yeah.
So I watched it. And the jokes are very hit and miss for me.
Yeah.
I think more miss than hits. There's a lot of the let's do better, let's try better mentality.
Right.
But that's also the first 3 episodes. I kind of want more than that. I feel like it's trying to harken back to Parks and Rec, where we can do better, let's try better. But at the same time, it's missing the kind of charm in it because the banter is within the people who are constantly there, and not necessarily the rotating defendants.
Yeah, which again is part of that original show as well. It was like,
Yeah.
how do we? How the bit is that like, oh, we're gonna have the most goofy people you've ever seen, kind of working against these established characters and
Mhm.
seeing how they banter back and forth.
Yeah.
There's still that. It's just that I don't know if that is effective in 2023 as it was in 1993. Is different
Yeah.
now. There's different expectations, I think, and I don't think. Yeah, I think that they're struggling to reach those in both of these examples.
I mean, I'm bringing up my Parks and Rec again. Maybe it'll get better in the second season.
Maybe, but I don't know. In the streaming era, it's harder to make that sell.
Also, it's multicam and not single cam.
Yes, both of these are, and
Yes.
it is weird. I definitely had a moment where I was like, "Wow, when was the last time NBC had a multicam show? Up All Night, Undateable."
No, I'm trying to think. American Auto single cam.
Yeah.
Oh,
the Will and Grace reboot.
Will and Grace. Technically, that was.
Yeah, I guess that was it.
Yeah.
Huh. It's not something you do often, is I guess what I would say.
Right.
So yeah, it was weird to see.
Yeah, because like even no, sorry. Lopez versus Lopez, I think is multicam.
Oh, is it? But that's technically a Peacock show, right? That's not on network.
No,
that is network.
Yeah, yeah, that's Friday nights.
Okay.
Right after The Rock, which is single cam.
Young Rock. Yes.
Young Rock.
Yeah. I don't know. That's weird. Anyway,
they still exist.
They still exist, I guess. If you can dig for them. I mean, we'll get there in cancellations and renewals, but as long as Bob Hart's Abishola is still on, the soul of multicam still lives. We'll get there. All right, let's talk about the two big shows this week.
Yes, the other show, speaking of Peacock.
Yes.
Thank you for me bringing that up.
Yes.
Was the Peacock exclusive.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson, director, producer.
Yes.
And I don't say star, but featured in a Glass Onion.
Yes.
Which when I saw it, I was like, why are you in here? And then this came out, I was like, oh yeah, that probably makes more sense now.
Yes.
Natasha Lyonne,
yes.
starring vehicle, Poker Face.
I wish I could talk more about this, but I am only halfway through the first episode.
Oh my
Christy
God.
Christy fell asleep, and I didn't want to watch them. She told me I could finish it without her, but I was like, no, I'm watching this with you, so I'll wait. So we got exactly halfway through the first episode, and I'm dying to know what happens. Because I already can tell by the first half of this, this is wonderful television. I am wrapped. I am want to know so badly what happens, because this is some of the most impressive TV I've seen in a long time. Just the way that Rian Johnson's script and the way he shoots it, I'm already like, okay, I'm sold. I want more of this. I am so excited to see all of this.
So yeah, if you like Knives Out, if you like Glass Onion,
yeah,
this is just more of Rian Johnson writing murder mystery stuff.
But it's different though. The tone is really interesting because it takes its sweet ass time in a really interesting way. I was actually thinking like comparing this directly to Glass Onion. Glass Onion is paced way like faster than this. I think this is taking advantage that it's a television show where you have a lot more time to spend with your characters. You can have, say, Adrian Brody give like a 5-minute speech and just go off and have a really cool back and forth that gives you a lot of backstory and gives you a lot of context without ever feeling too like expository.
Yes.
You can't do that in something like Glass Onion where it has to be like zap, zap, zap. We need to get to
or you're out by 2 hours.
Part, which I mean, yes, I think that some people are going to be a little bored by it. But for me, I was like, no, this is what I'm here for. Give me all of this. I want to know everything about these characters. I want to know about this world. I want to know like the slow drip of information to get to what I'm sure is going to be an amazing climax that's killing me that I didn't get to.
As soon as I got to the first episode, I wanted more.
Yeah.
There's 4 episodes out right now on Peacock. The rest will come out
weekly.
Yeah. On a weekly basis.
Ugh.
But those 4 episodes are dynamite. The first 2 are directed and written by Rian Johnson. The other 2 are not, but you get the kind of concept after it.
Natasha Lyonne's character is fascinating already. Like she's just eating that scenery the whole time. Just like everything about her character is compelling. Like her whole backstory, like the way that she like her mysterious powers, quote unquote, that she's able to like immediately see a lie.
So I like the way that they frame that.
Yeah.
Because it's also in the use of the audience as well.
Yeah.
Because it gives you the murder up front.
Right.
It says here's why we're
what
here.
Happens.
Here's what happens. Here's why we're here.
It's very Columbo in that way.
Yeah.
It's like you know how happens, you're just waiting for the star to figure it
Thank
out.
you. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yes,
The firm
it's the
triangle.
Columbo
Yeah.
thing is what they're doing.
And then it just works backwards.
Right.
Whenever I think Columbo, I think of just Columbo walking around and be like, I have to hit my mark over here.
Yes.
I have to hit my, which is why he's always staring down.
Yes, exactly. Except the setup is really interesting because she's not a detective.
No.
They make it very clear that she is not hired to do this. She figures it out because she just naturally has an inclination to want to figure out why somebody is lying.
Mhm.
It's just a thing that she does without necessarily having to be like that as her career or anything. It's
Right.
a very cool setup.
And also with her calling out people's bullshit,
Yeah.
the audience knows when people are bullshitting as well.
My favorite thing that when it sunk into my brain, I was like, oh my God, Rian Johnson, this genius, is the scene where they discuss for the first time that she has a bullshit detector.
Yes.
It's literally in a metal detector.
Yes.
It's literally in a metal detector. And I'm like, when I figured that out, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What a scene.
It just goes off.
He just does these things, and I don't even realize it while it's happening. Just incredible. And yeah, I'm mad I didn't finish.
I'm mad you
watching it.
didn't finish.
Well,
Because because that's one of the good things and kind of bad things about things is that because it's single cam,
yeah,
you're not set up in a studio. Because you're not set up in a studio all the time, you have the rotating cast of characters that come through here.
Yeah.
You're not stuck to only like Murder She Wrote, only murders in this town. only happens in this casino.
Right.
After that first episode, it goes out of the casino,
Great.
out of Vegas,
Okay.
and into basically Middle America.
I was wondering about that because the name of the show for during watching this first episode, I was like, is it all gonna be casino based stuff? Are we gonna stay here? Like, how does she get out of this? I'm really curious. I'll find out. But like, man, it's such a good setup that you're like, yeah, but you're right. I think it's intended to evoke those procedurals. It's supposed to evoke like a Columbo, where it's like, you can just take this character and drop them anywhere.
Yep.
And have them solve any of these situations.
I do find it a bit kind of ironic catching that everywhere she goes, there's a murder.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of, you can hand wave that away by just being like, well, maybe it's kind of like a serendipitous thing where it's like, no, she was meant to be here and figured this out.
Yeah.
Like she's just a wandering vagabond who just finds herself in these situations. I don't know. It's, of course, it's television. You have to at least suspend some disbelief.
Yes.
But still.
4 episodes in, I'm loving it. I want more of it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Especially for Natasha Lyonne.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to the podcast, Russian Doll, not really one of my favorite shows.
I think season 2 did not, I feel, meet anyone's expectations. And so I think it was smart for her just to be like, all right, let's move on, do something else, do something fresher with a creator I like.
Yep.
And yeah, I think this is maybe the thing that she's been meaning. This is probably the role that she's been waiting for.
Yes.
Yeah, this is it. And yeah, I'm excited to see more.
So unfortunately, it is on Peacock.
It happens. But hey, the good news is that there's more stuff than ever on Peacock. And so if you do sign up, there's actually a lot there.
Yep. You have Poker Face. You have The Traders.
Yep.
You have basically all of The Office on there.
A lot of sports, a lot of wrestling.
Yep. I was say, if you sign up today, as of this recording, Royal Rumble.
We're not
then
being paid for those.
No.
To let you guys know.
And then in the summer, WrestleMania.
Although, man, we should really get paid by them.
We should.
We should. Call us up. All right. But that's one last show, though, for you to talk about this week.
Yes. So on Apple TV Plus, I probably finished season 3 of Mythic Quest.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You're all caught up with that?
Yes, I'll caught up with that because technically the season finale was 2 weeks ago. So I'm not that far behind of it. But I didn't like how at the end of it, they basically said, well, we don't really like how they're split to different companies. We're going to put you back in the old one.
Okay.
I was like, okay, so that's how they get out of the ending of season 2, which was, I thought, a good ending of Mythic Quest. Of we're just going to go do our own company now. Like the story that we want to tell Mythic Quest is done. But since they got more seasons, they're going to be like, well, we got to keep the framing of Mythic Quest back. So we're just going to shove you right back in. Okay. I didn't really like that, but I can see it basically plot of, well, we need to keep the name Mythic Quest because that's what people are known for here. So shove right back in you go.
it's tricky when you're doing something like that and you try to do the big surprise twist and then you have to twist yourself out of it.
Well, they did this I think they did the twist too early because they did it
Yeah.
after season 2.
Right. Well, it's probably one of those things where they were on the bubble and they didn't know they were going to be able to write more.
Which is what I like. Like if
Yeah.
you stop after season 2, then that's great. Like you don't have to continue.
Yeah.
But because they did get more seasons, they have to find a way to shoehorn them back into
Yeah.
all the drama.
Always.
But
anyway, that's not it.
But no, speaking of dramas though,
Yes.
and one of our favorite shows, we both favorite Ted Lasso.
Yes.
Creators,
Uh-huh.
Bill Lawrence and Brett Goldstein,
Okay.
have a new show on Apple TV Plus. This time partnering with not Jason Sudeikis, however,
Mm-hmm.
partnering with oh god, the big guy.
You're blanking.
Yes, I know I'm blanking. I know I'm stalling.
Yes.
Because all I can think of is just him from Free Agent Sarah Marshall.
Oh, Jason Segel.
Jason Segel, yes, the other
There you
Jason.
Yes.
Because I said Jason.
Sudeikis to
I said
Segel. Yep.
I was like, no, it's not Sudeikis because he's Ted Lasso.
Yes.
But yeah, Jason Segel instead.
Yes.
In Shrinking.
Yeah. What is Shrinking?
Shrinking is about mental health and therapy.
Aha.
So
Shrinking. Got it.
Season 2 of Ted Lasso delved a little bit more into kind of that aspect. And so what I'm gathering is that they took that aspect and kind of made their own show on it.
Okay.
Jason Segel
Yes.
is the main character, said therapist, whose life is been upended by the recent death of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So this takes place 1 year following that tragic event, and him being a broken man is still trying to be a therapist, helping other broken people.
Mm-hmm.
But he can no longer stand just listening to people's problems, because as therapy goes, you can talk about your problems all you want, but until you do an actual action to it, they're still just going to be your problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so he pretty much, I don't say physically, but shakes people, metaphorically, shakes people out, takes his patients out of their comfort zone and into action.
Okay.
But that's technically ethically frowned upon. You're not supposed to do that.
No, you don't throw somebody in the pool to learn how to swim. No.
Yes, no. You don't take someone with anger issues and put them in an MMA class.
Right. No, you do not do that, turns out.
No. But he's trying to do therapy in his own way. But while he's helping out all these people, he's still not solving his own issues at home with his daughter, who has gone through the same tragedy of losing a mom, but with a therapist in-house, isn't really reaching out to have that therapy with her dad. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics and layers going on in here. Not necessarily the happy ho-hum that Ted Lasso is.
Seems darker.
No. But there is a lot of funny circumstantials going on. However, the one person that does feel out of place here is Harrison Ford.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
he was in this.
He's in it.
Yeah.
So all the commercial ads make me think that Harrison Ford is his dad.
No,
it's not. He's just a coworker.
Okay.
But he's just so old that is like,
you can't do a whole lot with him.
Yeah. One, you can't do away with him, but two, like, why aren't you like his dad? Like that feels like such a one odd pairing, but also like a simple setup of like, oh, it's a family business. Dad, son, daughter, it all works together.
Maybe they felt that was a little too easy.
I mean, it is very easy.
Yeah,
yes.
So maybe that's why they didn't do that.
Yeah, but I think it also like allows Harrison Ford to basically be his grumpy self and not like, I have to be happy grandpa.
Right.
I can be gruff third party. I have my own voice here. That just you have to listen to me because I'm gruff Harrison Ford.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which, yes, even Jason Segel does a very Harrison Ford voice in the pilot. So 2 episodes are out right now. Weekly. You can get caught up immediately. Like I said, if you're going expecting Ted Lasso vibes, not going to get that full, especially immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But it does throw you kind of for a loop in the first 10 minutes.
Okay.
Because Jason Segel is a broken man. and even though he's a therapist, doesn't know how to handle his own shit yet.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, there you go. That's Apple TV Plus.
As Apple TV Plus.
All right. Well, something on every network this week, I guess.
Oh, shit,
We really
yes.
covered it.
Except for HBO Max.
Well,
no, I'm sorry. We talked about The Last of Us.
Yeah, which we mentioned. Yeah, so episode 2 was a banger, which
Yes.
really ended on a really interesting note. I was actually shocked. I was like, it got to a certain point in the episode, and I was like, oh, this is how this ends, right? And then I checked the time. I was like, we have 15 more minutes.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, what are we gonna do now then? And the way it ended was on such an interesting note. I was like, well, I know what happens because I've played the video game. But if you didn't know where the story was gonna go,
Yeah.
man, that would have just been a real head scratcher.
A tongue tingler.
Yeah, that would have been something for people to be like, wait, what's gonna happen next to these people?
Yeah.
That show, I think, is getting better. I really, really enjoyed episode 2. I thought it was even better than episode 1. They're onto something with this show. I think it's gone beyond now for beyond just this is a good adaptation of this video game for me. I think after the second episode, I'm on no, this is good television. This is just a straight up good show. Turns out that maybe it would have been a better TV show than a video game the whole time, Neil Druckmann. I think maybe he's found his calling, is what I'm saying. Maybe video games are not his style. But I'm probably going to be outnumbered by that. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying The Last of Us is not a good game. I enjoyed it. It's got good stealth gameplay, but I think I'm enjoying the television show more than I enjoyed playing the video game.
As even mentioned in the show, you have 10 years to look back and see, oh, I can fix all this.
Yeah, it helps, turns out.
All right. Last thing on HBO Max, though,
yes,
real quickly, because it is the new year, they launched their live streaming sports. I don't know if you caught this.
Yeah, I saw this was happening.
Yes. So the women's national team and men's national team are currently in New Zealand playing in a tournament where HBO Max, you can stream live those matches.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put stream in a huge quotes here because, yes, I get there's a huge time difference, huge geographical distance between where I am and where the match is taking place.
Turns out, yes.
But at the same time, I hate when my stream drops to 360.
Oh, yeah, the quality is going to suffer.
Oh, the quality suffers so bad.
Yeah.
I can get maybe 10 seconds of good crisp 1080 and then it just immediately drops when it switches camera angles.
Yikes.
I'm like, yeah, no, get someone out there, fix your shit. I get that was the first one, but as a pilot, as the first one for it, as a concept, that was just a terrible mess.
Yeah, not great.
So yeah, even though we do praise HBO and HBO Max for The Last of Us and their shows,
the technology is not their strong suit.
No.
But yeah, hopefully they work on it.
God, just get some engineers out there, put some money into it. It can be a thing.
Yeah, work on it.
Just work on it.
Fix your shit. All right, speaking of fixing shit, let's talk about cancellations and renewals.
All right, what am I no longer watching?
Well, you're no longer watching Mosquito Coast on Apple TV Plus, as that has been canceled after 2 seasons. Peacock also has their axe sharpened, with Vampire Academy being canceled after 1 season and One of Us is Lying canceled after 2 seasons.
As opposed to A Million Little Lies.
That's different.
Yes.
Really different. CBS is, however, renewing The Neighborhood for a 6th season. Hulu is bringing back Extraordinary for a 2nd season. Out of nowhere, Adult Swim has brought back Aqua Teen Hunger Force from the dead for a 12th season.
I think it hasn't been on the air since 2017.
Correct. Bob Hearts Abishola,
as you mentioned,
continues for a 5th season on CBS. Titans on HBO Max will end after its 4th season, so no more Titans.
Yep.
Also, Doom Patrol, for similar reasons, canceled after 4 seasons as well.
So right now, their first half of the 4th season has aired, but the second half of that 4th season will air later this year.
And that'll be it. Netflix will bring back The Recruit for a 2nd season. And then Fox has done the unthinkable, what everybody thought was not going to happen. They did it anyways, which was renew all 3 of their big animated shows, big long-running animated shows, The Simpsons, Family Guy, and Bob's Burgers, all for 2 more seasons at least.
Yep.
So that, of course, cranks The Simpsons up to an unbelievable 36 seasons.
Current record. Yeah. Sorry. It breaks their previous record.
And Family Guy and Bob's Burgers will just get add-on. I believe that puts Bob's Burgers, I think, around 15 or 16, and then Family Guy about
22.
22 or 23. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, the theory is that there was potential that they would either move The Simpsons to ABC or just permanently on Disney Plus.
Mhm.
Nope, not the case. They are continuing to be on Fox. So those special contracts with Fox, the Fox network, continue. Weird. I don't know. Let's see what happens with that. At least 2 more seasons then. Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix will get a 7th season. Somebody has to feed Phil already. He's
Apparently,
hungry.
someone's been feeding him for 6 seasons.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know this was a thing.
he keeps asking for food. Please give it to him. And then HBO, as we mentioned, renewed The Last of Us for a 2nd season. Again, what they do is anyone's guess.
Yep.
Then we have one death this week. Topham. Top?
Yep, that was
Okay. Topham, age 75, an English guitarist for the Yardbirds.
Yeah, that history class of the Yardbirds.
Yes, there you go. So Topham. Let's move on to our last section here today, which is the movies. And we start the movies with the weekend box office numbers. Your number 1 is still Avatar: The Way of Water, another $20 million. That sits at $598 million domestic.
It did cross 600 over the course of
Yes.
the past week, but we will talk
Yes.
about that in a bit.
Number 2, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, $11 million this week. That's at 126.
I'm still waiting for that to get to Peacock so I can watch it.
Me too. M3gan with another $9.7 million. That's at 73. Number 4, Missing, $9.1 million debut.
Yep.
Number 5, rounding out your top 5, A Man Called Otto with another $8.8 million. That's at 35. Upcoming this week, releases for the 3rd of February. We have 80 for Brady, your
Old
elderly
ladies.
women go see the Super Bowl comedy.
Yes.
Yes.
Probably going to take the doctor to see
Yes.
this.
Yes. You guys will probably talk about this.
Yes.
And then Knock at the Cabin, your horror movie for the week.
This is the M. Night Shyamalan
Yes.
film. The one I am interested in seeing, but I probably won't get to it until it's on HBO.
Okay.
Max.
So
But
hold on for those.
hold on for those. Yeah, next week, probably get to 80 for Brady. That seems
Yeah.
more like a date night movie between
Yeah.
us.
Also, this Wednesday, keep an eye on mediaboatpodcast.com. Starting for February, we will start posting a preview of the month's releases. Thanks to Mike here. He has written some summaries for upcoming movies for us. I'll post that on the website, so you'll know exactly what to expect in the months to come. So starting with February on the 1st.
Yep.
So look forward to that. Let's move on to this week's movie news. We start with Avatar 2 billion. James Cameron's Avatar sequel is now the 5th highest grossing movie of all time, finally passing Avengers: Infinity War to take its spot on Thursday. Avatar: The Way of Water has now grossed $2.054 billion at the dollars at the global box office. Infinity War had an equally impressive $2.052 billion total after releasing back in 2018. Only the first Avatar, $2.92 billion, Avengers: Endgame, $2.79 billion, Titanic, $2.19 billion, and Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens, $2.07 billion, rank higher on the all-time list. Internationally, The Way of Water has grossed $1.5 billion, making it the 4th biggest movie in history. At the domestic box office, it has made $603 million, standing as number 13 of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the 6th movie ever that's made that has crossed $2 billion globally, and only doing so in the 6th week of its release.
Yes, this
Pretty
also
impressive.
means that Zoe Saldana
Yes.
is now in 4 of those 6 movies.
Damn.
Can you name those 4 movies?
Well, it's the 2 Avatars
Yes.
and the Avengers: Endgame and the one before Endgame, Age of Ultron.
Infinity War.
No, shit. Infinity War. Whatever. It's one of those.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, Zoe Saldana, the $1 billion woman, or sorry, the $2 billion woman.
$2 billion one. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right.
So we know Titanic is the other one that's up there.
Yeah.
So that's 5. Can you name the 6th one?
No.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, what's big enough of a hit?
Yeah, that's tricky.
It is tricky because this is not inflation. Otherwise, you know,
Right.
Gone with the Wind is
Right.
the far and away.
I don't know.
one.
Jurassic World.
No.
No.
Uh,
Am I
turns out,
close?
I mean, it's the universe. No, it's Star Wars Episode 7.
Right. Yeah, they mentioned that in the story.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was something else because we mentioned Force Awakens. But
Yeah.
Force Awakens makes sense.
Yep, that was it.
Okay.
And then Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Oh, and Jurassic World's
at
number 8.
1.9.
Okay, I was
Yeah,
close.
you're close. Because that's 1.6, and then The Lion King at
Wow,
1.6.
The Lion King. Huh.
And then the first Avengers at 1.5.
Oh, live action Lion King. Okay.
yes,
that
live
makes
action
more sense.
2015.
Got it. No, 2019. Oh my
yeah,
God, we're not
2019.
talking to you, Ziri.
Yeah, 2019. Sorry, Jurassic World
Was
2015. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on because that's not, believe it or not, the biggest story of the week. Of course, the biggest story of the week in movies is, hey, it's awards season officially.
Yep, and people woke up on Tuesday to some good news.
Yes, Oscar nominations are here, and you are a happy camper because
yes, I am.
everything, everywhere, all at once was everywhere on the Oscar ballot because they lead all films with 11 nominations this year.
Did you pick up? Because
Yeah, I know, you called
I called it. I called it.
Among this year's acting categories, 16 out of the 20 nominations are first-timers.
Yes.
Including Austin Butler for Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, Hong Chow and Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Carrie Condon, Barry Keoghan, Colin Farrell, and Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis, Stephanie Hsu, Ke Huy Quan, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Ana de Armas for Blonde, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Paul Mescal for Aftersun, Bill Nighy for Living, and Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie. Steven Spielberg achieved his 12th nomination in the Best Picture category for The Fabelmans, extending his record for an individual producer, but will go up against All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking for Best Picture.
Yes.
Edward Berger's World War I film, All Quiet on the Western Front, earned 9 Oscar nominations, the second most mentions ever for a non-English language film, behind Netflix's Roma and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragons, 10 nominations each. To date, Parasite is the only non-English language film to win Best Picture, and it will remain so because I don't think All Quiet on the Western Front has a chance of winning.
No, it won't, because Everything Everywhere All at Once will definitely win.
Okay, so this is where we need to talk about how we're feeling about the Oscars this year.
Yes. So we have 10 Best Pictures.
Yeah, fully filling out the 10 this year. Congratulations to the Academy. They finally did it again.
Yes. No more of this 9 bullshit.
Right, no longer just skirting the popular ones. We finally got the popular ones. This is a category that involves both Top Gun and Everything Everywhere All at Once and Avatar. 3 huge successes, mainstream ass movies in this lineup.
And then there's Elvis.
But what are you going to do? Who do you think is the favorite moving in here?
Do you have to ask me who the favorite is?
I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once does have probably the audience vote. It probably has most of the critical reception here.
It has the media vote podcast
However, is a movie that is arguably an action comedy.
Yes.
Do you think that has a chance in hell convincing the Academy voters? Because the Academy voters, as you mentioned when talking about
the baseball
in video, like in the industries all over the place, are in their 70s and they're aging. And do you think they've even seen this movie? When you have something like The Fabelmans or Tar, more traditional Best Picture bait, against it, I have my doubts.
Well, there's also The Banshees of Inisherin too,
which also have a
won
chance
the
here.
Golden Globe, I think. Yeah.
And I think that
it's been getting the acting nominations wins everywhere.
And potentially, I think screenplay in the bag as well.
We'll get there.
Yeah. It's an interesting year because I feel like there's no outright favorite. I think there's so much competition here that it could go one of many ways. What I will say, though, and just to appease you here, not just to appease you, but to get this said going into award season, yes, I realize I was pretty down on Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't love it. It's not my pick here either. But what I will say, I hope it wins every single one of these awards. And the reason why I say that is because I think if it does, that is nothing but good for the future of cinema, for the future of the Academy, for the future of everything. Original movies are important. I want original movies to succeed. I want original crowd-pleasing comedic movies to be successful, because they, as I said, they don't traditionally win things like this. So if it does pull this off, it's great news for the future of movies, for the future of creative movies, inventive movies, for visually appealing movies, also for
Low
depictions of
budgets.
Asians in cinema, for inclusivity,
Mhm.
for stories about people who are not just white Americans. It's exciting for a lot of reasons. And for that reason, despite my personal predilections, I want it to be successful here. I want it to win it all. I want it to sweep. I have my doubts that it will.
Oh, it cannot win all 11
No,
because
no.
2 of them are going up in the same acting category.
Yes. So
So the most it can win is 10.
yeah, like I said, I have my doubts that it can pull it off. But
Yeah.
man, do I want it to, because I think it's a win for everything, everywhere, all at once is a win for everybody in so many ways. So yeah, that I just wanted to get that established. I'm not going into this being like, oh, I hope it doesn't win because I don't like it. I don't care. No one cares about what I feel. I want it to be successful because it's good news if it is.
Well, if it does win, it takes what, as I mentioned, Parasite did
Yeah,
before
Yes.
and puts it up into an upper echelon of it.
Yeah.
Because Parasite was a very dramatic piece.
Right.
It was very calm, somber, very shot beautifully.
Right. This is not that.
This is not that. This is chaos incarnate.
Yeah, and I think.
But to have chaos on screen in a compelling story.
Right. That did engage a lot of people and meant a lot to a lot of people, and clearly was very successful in what it tried to do. And I think that that's awesome. And I want to see that rewarded.
There's also a lot of different symbology.
Yeah.
That's not a word.
Symbolism
shown throughout the film in every shot. Everything has a meaning. Everything is connected in every shot. Everything is done on purpose.
Yeah.
It's not I would say it's not like Top Gun, where we have dogfighting scenes where things are just up in the air and they're happening. It's not like Avatar, where we need to, like, we're creating it out of thin air. This is everything that is pure about cinema. Low budget auteurs who are able to get their vision out of their heads and onto film.
Yeah. Yes, I really, really hope that by the end of this, you can say the Oscar-winning directors of the Turn Down for What video. But anyway, let's move on to the smaller categories here. So is there anything interesting you want to point out? I think I want to point out two that I thought were
the writing.
We don't have to pull up all of them, but
we will get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it as it gets
closer.
And I'm sure we'll do our traditional. I asked Christy if she was in on
picks
in our picks this year. She said no, she wants to pass.
Okay,
but we can still do some money on this if you want. Maybe crank it up this year.
Put a game on it.
Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to specifically talk real briefly about animation and visual effects.
Yes.
Animation is interesting. Marcel the Shell got that nomination. I was hoping it would.
Except it won't win.
But it won't win because it's up against some real heavy hitters.
Yes, it is.
I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio will absolutely steal this. I would love Turning Red to have a chance, but I think del Toro's coming in, hot. Like, it's somebody that we know the Academy votes for because he's a Best Picture winner.
Also, it won Golden Globe
as well.
Yeah.
Even though the Golden Globe isn't a whole lot of evidence,
yes.
I still think that I think this is Pinocchio absolutely without a.
I don't know. I think people like we saw last year will just see Disney turning red and vote for it.
But I have a feeling that, again, we know the Academy votes for Guillermo del Toro and his name's in the title.
Yes.
And I think that pushes him over the edge. The other thing is, I think visual effect is a old school versus new school battle between Avatar and Top Gun. Which one do you think works? I think Top Gun wins, in my opinion. I think that just how impressive it is that they actually did physical effects in 2022 is an amazing feat. And I think that all that behind the scenes stuff that Tom Cruise put out about actually being in those planes, I think that sells the Academy. I think Top Gun takes this. But I wanted to get your take because Avatar also equally as impressive, but so digital, digital.
Yes, Avatar is all digital. I thought we were talking about All Quiet on the Western Front.
No,
but because the only reason I bring that one up is because we saw 1917 did the same thing and won for visual effects.
But how much of that is an existing like a studio, like American movie with American studios, like doing
But
their thing.
yes, but All Quiet on the Western Front is German studio.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't
Yeah.
think it has a chance here.
But yeah, visual effects. I don't know. You do bring up a good point of
Mhm.
Top Gun Maverick because
So
of
that's
that.
why I think that's the battle.
But Avatar
Yeah,
is just a
but
full on.
it is its visuals.
visual
It
effect.
lives and dies by its visuals.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, so does Top Gun, right? Like the reason why that
No, Top Gun lives and dies by its editing.
I mean, yes.
Give
So-
it the editing.
yeah,
give
do you think
visual
it wins
effects.
there then?
Yeah.
You think
I
that's
think
where
it wins
wins
there, and I think visual effects goes to Avatar.
Yeah, and I'll get there, but I think that I think original screenplay is Inisherin absolutely
Okay.
with ease. Adapted is interesting this year. You have Ryan Johnson's
Yep.
Glass Onion script here because it's a sequel,
sequel.
instead of original.
Yep.
And I think that maybe he has a chance there, but I don't know. I think the reception was surprisingly mixed for Glass Onion, and I don't know if Adapted is. I don't have a chance. Also, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a great movie, but I don't know if the script is the reason why it's great.
No, it's the acting that
So,
makes it great.
And it's the visuals, it's the creative,
Yep.
it's the creativity happening on screen. I don't know how much of that is the script, but I don't think it's a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why I have Inisherin here. I think The Fabelmans has an outside shot.
You're right.
But Adapted, I'm not sure. Adapted is more complicated. Because, yeah, you have Ryan Johnson there, but you also have some other heavy hitters here.
Right. You have Top Gun Maverick, because that's also a sequel.
I don't think Top Gun wins here. I'm going to I think this is probably between the women talking and living. I don't know if All Quiet on the Western Front here works. Yeah, I don't know. I'd see women talking here. That might be the one time women talking takes away an award here. That's my prediction.
All right. So going back to then the 10 Best Picture nominees.
Yeah.
We've actually seen
we've seen a big chunk of these. We were actually talking pre-podcast about how to see the rest of them. Unfortunately, we might just have to wait for a couple.
So we've seen All Quiet on the Western Front, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, you'll talk about it in a moment.
We've seen Avatar, which we talked about. We've seen Banshees of Inisherin, which you're going to
caught up with that this week.
Elvis, which we'll talk about soon here.
Yep.
Everything Ever All at Once.
Yeah,
Top Gun Maverick. And the only thing that leaves out is Tar. We haven't gotten to it, but it's on Peacock.
It's on Peacock. You might check that out this weekend.
Yep, same here. So I'll probably get to talking about Tar next week.
Yeah.
So that just leaves The Fabelmans, which is still in theaters, and I might sneak away to go see it. Triangle of Sadness and Women Talking.
Yeah. Those last two are going to be the trickier ones to find, I think.
And arguably, do we need to?
I think so. I think it would be good to have like an idea of what those are. But no, I don't think that those are your front runners. I think ultimately Best Picture here, it's tricky. I think the ones I could see, I think this is Tar, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Banshees. I think those are the three.
Really? Tar, even though you haven't seen it.
But I think the way that this year has gone, it's the one that most people talked about. You didn't have, and then maybe an outside shot from The Fabelmans. Hollywood does like movies about Hollywood.
Yes.
And filmmaking. And I think that Spielberg could pull it off.
That's why I need to hold off on my judgment
until we see The Fabelmans.
Because that, from everything that I've seen and read, that is his, I won't say magnum opus, but it's his it's as close to the autobiography he's ever going to get.
Yes, true. I don't know. There's a lot of questions here. Also, I want to note, they pulled what we thought was going to happen, which is no streaming exclusives here.
Yes.
I guess back to regular business in 2023.
Yep.
Which is kind of sad to see. I liked those years where we got some streaming players in the Best Picture conversations. Especially after Coda's big win last year. To have the streaming network shut out is the story for sure.
But with Tar, Cate Blanchett just continues her Oscar domination.
Yeah, I could see her winning here.
All right. So let's actually talk about some of these films.
Yeah, we're going to talk about 3 Best Picture nominees just right now.
Yeah. So when these nominees came out, I think we both did the same thing: is look up where can we watch all of these.
I think we skipped Elvis every time we talked about Best Picture.
No, it's in here.
I think I definitely did.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's start with All Quiet on the Western Front.
So yes, this is the German film based on the book, of course.
Yes.
Have you read the book?
No. Was I supposed to?
I did in school, so that's why I asked. Because we read All Quiet on the Western Front in school. So
No, we
I'm
did
very
not.
familiar with the story here.
No, we did not.
Okay, so this is your first time with the story.
Yes. So World War One, my recent frame of mind for it comes from, like I said, 1917, which also won Best Picture.
No,
it was nominated.
He was nominated.
Yes.
It won Best Visual Effects, like you said.
Yeah, because it was a single shot. Or,
right.
Sorry, the quote unquote single take framing.
Sam Mendes movie.
Yep.
Anyway.
So getting into All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yes.
First off, because I never read the book, I completely either forgot or just never realized, oh, this is just the German side of it.
Yeah, it's a
Which,
German army.
Makes sense when you think of which side is going west.
Right.
Didn't really think about that.
There's a reason why it's the Western Front for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I thought it was, they're on the Western side.
Yes.
So that's the Western Front.
Yes,
no, it's reversed. My dumb brain didn't think about that until until watching this movie. I was like, oh yeah.
Yes.
So also didn't realize that it was a German film.
Yes.
The big title basically kind of blew that lid off my mind. It was like, oh yeah, this is going to be in German.
Mm-hmm.
But on Netflix, it is dubbed, so you don't have to read subtitles.
Okay.
So there are certain scenes where there is subtitles, where they are on purpose speaking. I think it's French.
Okay.
Where they keep it subtitled, but that's because in scene they have the interpreters going back and forth too.
Mm-hmm.
But as a war film, it's a good war film, but it's not a great war film.
Okay.
I think that's where I ended up ultimately landed on it. It's definitely a good, well-made war film. Definitely good made World War I film. Definitely a really good look into World War I on the ground.
Yeah.
Especially because it is taken from the viewpoint of soldiers on the front line.
Specifically one young soldier, one young man.
Specifically the youngest. Yeah, the young soldiers who do everything they can to basically disobey their parents and join the war because they want the glory of it. Ultimately finding out that no, there is no glory in war. Everyone dies.
I mean, the thing about the story has always been, it's interesting because it takes those perspectives, like you're saying, of a young man dealing with war. It's also kind of a coming of age kind of story in a way too, where it's about this young man's experience about how war messes him up. Because I don't know if you know anything about World War I, but it was kind of messed up. I mean, trench combat, mustard gas, it was not fun. It was dark, it was dirty, it was gross.
This film is very dark, dirty, gross, and violent.
It's everything that the book was, I'm sure, and just some brutal depictions of war. But through basically the guys, through the perspective of innocence, basically coming in and not knowing what to expect, and then coming out of it changed.
Like I said, coming in thinking, we're gonna solve this in a matter of months. Go in, come back out, come back war heroes. Everyone will love us.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, because yes, it does follow one person, but it follows four best friends,
right,
and the subsequent consequences of war for each and every one of them. I think every one of them eventually succumbs to a different version, of death over the course of the film.
Right. So, so you're saying it didn't quite reach maybe the heights of the best war films of all time. This is not a Saving Private Ryan.
That's the one I was referencing.
This is not but what do you think though? Why do you think that it's gotten this Best Picture nod? Do you think it does anything particularly well?
Oh yeah, because the acting in here is just pulls at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
You care for this kid. You don't want to see him
right
in all this basically shit that he's going through.
Right.
And yet it does a really good job of framing them not as the bad guys, even though they are, because
but from the German perspective, they are. They're not. Yeah,
they're not, and that's what it does so well. And I think it does this in the book too. Is that it frames them as the war heroes? They're going to be conquering war heroes. We're the best.
Also, I mean, regardless of side, it's just the reality of war is that it sucks for everybody.
And that's what it does great. Is that it takes out whose side are you on, like the whole like politics of it.
It's the
And
humanities.
goes to
focuses
humanity,
on. Yeah.
yes. And it does show a good showcase between classism,
Mhm.
especially in the military,
Right.
between people who make the decisions and people who
Yes.
execute the decisions.
The boots on the ground and like the difference between that.
Yeah,
For sure.
especially towards the end, like both sides come heading to a clash. Very well executed.
Yeah.
Definitely well deserving of a watch.
Yeah. Okay.
Even if you're watching it just because you read the book,
I
or
was
you're
gonna
supposed to
say,
read the
like,
book.
judging by you have not read and what you're describing, it seems like it's a very good retelling of that book.
Yeah,
having
that's
read it.
why
So-
I'm thinking it might win for best adaptation.
Maybe I could see it, but again, I think it's an outside chance. The trick with foreign films is that they win the foreign film category and then probably nothing else.
Yep.
A Parasite, of course, broke that, but I don't know if this has.
Yeah,
the
but Parasite
chance.
also broke it by winning Best Picture.
Yeah, which I don't think this is going to do.
Right.
So,
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
not going to. But it's definitely a really, really good adaptation of it.
and that's on HBO Max.
No, that is on
No?
Netflix.
Netflix, right? Netflix.
Yes.
So that's on Netflix if you want to check that out.
Now, let's go to HBO Max.
Now something completely different.
Yes. Talk to me about The Irishman.
Okay, not The Irishman. That's a Netflix film. No,
Yes.
I caught up on Banshees of Inisherin. I will just be brief here. Everything you said before was accurate. This is a weird movie. It's such an interesting mix of funny but darkly funny, and also really depressing. And somehow it melds those into one story, and where you're never quite sure whether you should be laughing or crying. And it ends that way too throughout this whole thing. It's very much that vibe. Now, I want to note, I have not seen this director/writer's previous movies. I understand that this is kind of his bit.
Okay.
So if I had seen, say, Three Billboards,
are-
or if I had seen In Bruges,
Yeah.
I would have known what to expect.
Oh, you have to watch it, Bruce.
But I haven't, and so I went into this blind, basically, only based on what you told me. And I mentioned this pre-pod. You did the same thing you did with Power of the Dog, where you gave me like the cliff notes. You gave me the bullet points of what happens in the film. But that doesn't do justice to the actual film, because the actual film is like all that does happen, but the way it's done, the context of which that happens, is the most important part. The movie is not the events that happen. The movie is the why and the ways that these things happen. There's a lot of metaphor happening here. I think the movie is at its worst when it has to point out, hey, this is just like the Irish Civil War that is happening. There's like 2 scenes in this film where it points that out right in front of you, that waves in front of you. It's like, hey, this is just like this. And I think that was like, all right, I get what you're doing. The rest of the movie, though, when you don't have to worry about like the obvious metaphor, when you're actually just talking about those characters and how they interact with each other and how this friendship both devolves and evolves at the same time, and the chaos that kind of ensues between them, that's when it's compelling, because the characters are really interesting and the performances are great. Colin Farrell, wonderful here.
Mhm.
I think he's keeps this thing rolling through the whole thing, and just the emotion he gets from his eyebrows alone is just amazing in this film. Like every time he's like just struggling about this relationship deteriorating in front of him, and just you can just see the pain in his face, and you just feel so bad for him, but at the same time it's like, no, you're such a dummy. And the other guy too, though, he's also just a total dummy, and he's making stupid decisions based on spite for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
But you feel for both of them kind of by the end of it, and it does this back and forth pull where you're never quite sure who is actually correct here, but because they're both idiots who are just doing stupid things until the ultimate stupid thing at the end, and they somehow see eye to eye at the end of it, all of it, and you're just like, well, what was this for? For nothing? Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I know you can't exactly give the other one the high five at the end.
No, you can't. They both come out of this thing looking dumb.
Yeah,
which is the point, I think.
it's the point.
The story is not necessarily about where it goes. It's about the journey to get there, nor is it going to make you feel good. It's not a feel-good movie at all. It's a circumstance movie.
Yeah,
it's just a movie where you're just like, this stuff is going to happen, these characters are going to interact, things are going to happen, and you just have to sit by the end of it with this weird feeling in your stomach that nothing really got resolved. just like the Civil War that is this metaphor, where you're just like, there's like a couple of lines where it's just like, well, yeah, no, things just happen sometimes. Like, and that's kind of this movie. The lesson of this movie is things just happen sometimes, and people are going to be people. And at the end of the day, you just have to do whatever feels like you should do. Be the person who you are. Never let somebody else influence you, because bad things happen when you lose track of that. Bad things happen when you lose who you are. It's
Well, also bad things happen when you're dependent on other
Right,
people
yeah,
for
you- yeah.
when you can't be your own person.
Yeah, you have, yeah, but even that is kind of muddied,
Mhm.
and it doesn't make you. There's no clear cut answer to any of the questions it presents. So I'm not sure how I fall on it. I don't know if I loved it. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed my time with it. There's some great performances and great writing. I think the script is especially good because it's very economic. It's like very tight, very compact. Especially in the first 30 minutes, it's like does so much with so little dialogue, like and like story.
Mhm.
You have so much of it is just in this performances and reading those faces as they discuss things. And especially like some of the supporting characters are just amazing here. Like I forget his name, but the kind of dorky kid who's like in love with the sister character.
Oh, the Barry Keoghan's
He's
character.
great in this. He's great. I could see the supporting Oscar
Mhm.
because he's just amazing. His performance is just amazing here.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's just I think the performances and the script are why you're here. Also, it's really well shot. I think cinematography is pretty impressive
Mhm.
here. But man, yeah, I don't know if I loved it though. Like which I think is the point. I don't know. It's a weird film. It's a fascinating film. I guess I'd recommend it as long as you know what you're getting into. As long as you know it's kind of a slow burn and you're not going to be like coming out of it, all right, this was a great movie. You're going to come out of it being like, huh, okay, all right, that happened.
Well, I mean, like you mentioned, the previous director's work are In Bruges and
Right.
Three Billboards.
Yeah.
Which I like both of those a lot more than I liked this film.
Yeah, and I could see that because this is not a movie that's about like, oh, I loved it.
Mhm.
It's just not going to get that to you. It's not going to be it's not
Satisfying.
satisfying. That is the word I was looking for.
Yes.
It is definitely not satisfying.
You'll never be satisfied.
No, but that's fine because it's not trying to be.
Yeah.
And I think as that, it's an interesting film that's doing some interesting things. So that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's on HBO Max.
Yes, that's on HBO Max.
Also
yes,
on HBO is the other.
it's
Oscar
finally
by
time. It's finally time to talk about Baz
Baz
Luhrmann's Elvis.
Yes. And what a spectacle it is.
Yeah.
Because Baz Luhrmann is a spectacle.
Yeah.
I also like how accurate it is.
Okay.
So this is what, the third iteration of an Elvis film now?
I wasn't keeping track.
I don't know, because it's very out there. It's very wide encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it might be one of the most accurate portrayals of Elvis.
Sure.
I can see why Austin Butler is nominated here,
Yeah.
because there are several times throughout this film I completely forget that I'm watching an actor.
Yeah.
That like, oh no, like I'm just watching Elvis now, and he just disappears into this role.
Okay.
But he also carries this role. He also carries the film, and it pains me to say it, but I think this would have been a better film without Tom Hanks in it.
Oh boy.
Because
it's distracting.
Very, very distracting.
I have heard, yes.
Because it's clearly Tom Hanks. It's clearly him doing a bit, what feels like a bit, because we all know who like Tom Hanks is in acts. I feel like they got someone else in there.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot better. It probably would have been more of an upfront to be a Best Picture. But Austin Butler is this thing. He basically becomes Elvis in this. It goes through the whole gamut of everything. I do like how they include his origin story and of his origin songs, which are not his songs.
Right. No.
There's all his songs that he's famous for are re-records of other songs.
Blues standards from the era.
Yeah. But what the film does is that it basically tells you, here's the person who actually sings this song.
Right.
And we're going to have them sing the song. You're not going to
Yeah.
listen to the Elvis version. You're going to listen to the original.
And that's
version of it.
important when you're talking about Elvis, because the one major modern criticism of Elvis is just that so much of his career he owes to Black artists
Yes.
because what he was doing at the time was basically Black music and and going into a label known for Black music.
Mhm.
And the reason why a lot of people think he was as successful as he was because he mainstreamed it and made it white.
Yep.
And say what you will about that, but it happened, and this story is just telling you the story that did happen.
Yeah, and all that happens within the first 30 to 40 minutes.
Mhm.
And then from there, it takes off into Elvis' career.
Right.
You do see the transition from lower act to main stage.
Yeah.
But you also see why this film isn't necessarily centered all around Elvis, even though it's his name, and it's centered around Tom Hanks' character.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Hearing that makes me want to see this less. I already did really want to see it, but I'm like,
Yes.
all right. Is it just like his character from That Thing You Do, but with an accent?
Oh yeah, he wasn't That Thing You Do.
Yeah, he was a manager in that episode,
Yeah, he
in
was a
that
manager
movie
in that,
too.
yeah. Yeah, the scummy manager.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He's done this before.
I mean,
30, almost 30 years
almost
ago.
30 years ago.
Woo.
That's a 90s film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, it's visually striking. I like what the direction was going in. But at the same time, it's a lot. It's a lot of movie because they do cover a lot.
How does this compare? When you were talking about it, it reminded me a lot of the conversation around Bohemian Rhapsody, where that was also a biopic film about a specific person, also with a performance where the person basically became that person.
Yes.
How do you think it compares to Bohemian Rhapsody?
I liked it a lot better than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
And again, I was never high on Bohemian Rhapsody.
But how does it compare to Rami Malek's portrayal of Freddie Mercury, though? If you put Austin Butler's Elvis right next to that,
ooh,
that's the question, right? Because
that's the question.
Rami Malek won the Oscar for that performance. Do you
Yes.
think Austin Butler wins it for similar reasons?
Ooh.
Or do you think it's just too competitive this year?
I think it might be too competitive.
Yeah.
Especially for Best Actor.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, Colin Farrell's up for Best Actor.
Because I think that's
Brendan Fraser's also up for Best
Mm-hmm.
Actor.
But that's a comparison people are going to make, right?
Yeah.
It's the like, well, that's a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
It's not, but that's the excuse people are going to make.
Yeah, it's because it is under the biopic genre.
Right.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. I don't know.
I want to say yes because, as I mentioned, there are times where I forget that I'm watching Austin Butler.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas with Bohemian Rhapsody, there were times where I was like, no, that's just
Rami Malek doing a weird thing with his mouth.
Yeah. Whereas this was like, oh no, that's just Austin Butler.
Okay.
Which I did find I don't know if we ever covered it here, a weird behind the scenes casting choice here.
Okay.
Of why they got Austin Butler.
Yeah.
It's because Austin Butler was technically in the role for Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, okay.
But he lost out
on
that role, so he ended up doing Elvis instead.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Which is weird because I don't know why I keep blanking on names.
Yeah, I know. You're having
a rough time.
Having a day.
Because it was actually the opposite that happened for fuckface.
Well, while you're thinking of names, okay. Well, I mean, again, this was not necessarily on my radar. I guess if I really run out of things to watch, maybe I'll give Elvis a shot. So I'm guessing that outside of possibly acting, do you think this has a shot at anything? Miles Teller.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think this has a shot at any Oscars here?
Like I said,
probably like costume design, maybe? If it's even up for that, I actually don't know.
Maybe if it's up for that. I don't know if it actually would. I mean, I'm glad that's nominated everywhere. It's a good piece of media.
Yeah.
But it's also a bit all over the place.
It's a good piece of media. We can literally say that about anything here.
Yes, because it's a business. No. So back to my story. Miles Teller was also up in the role for Elvis with Austin Butler.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, no, they were both in the role for they flip-flopped.
Yeah.
I want to see a world where they're flip-flopped.
Okay.
Where Miles Teller
Elvis
gets the Elvis, and then Austin Butler gets the Top Gun role.
We'll never know. We'll truly never know.
Anyways.
All right. So Elvis.
Wow, he's fuckface because he has the weird mustache on it the whole time.
So Elvis sounds like it was a good time, but
it's a good time, but it's also a lot of movie.
Yeah.
I think it's like 240.
Oof.
And it does cover everything.
Movies are too damn long. I said it before. I'll say it again. All these movies are probably over 2 hours, right?
Yes.
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 Sad. All right. Anything else in movies this week? Or can we wrap it up?
I think we can wrap it up.
Time to wrap it up.
Yep.
Thank you for listening
To
to
the
the Media Boat Podcast this
Extra
week.
long episode.
Woo, yeah, we knew it was going to be deluxe, and we gave you a deluxe show.
Yep.
Hey, if you want to watch us live next week, we're on YouTube. Search youtube.com for Media Boat Podcast. You can find our channel there. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when we go live. All of that on youtube.com. If you want to listen to us in audio podcast form, we're on podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us by searching Media Boat Podcast. You can also find us on Twitter at Media Boatcast as our handle there. Facebook, search Media Boat Podcast to find our channel or our page there. If you want to see us stream video games, that's on twitch.tv/MediaBoat. See also archives of some of those streams going up on our YouTube channel. And our website, MediaBoatPodcast.com, is where you can see all of that and more. Then lastly, but definitely not least, if you have questions, feedback, anything you want to say to us or ask us, you can email us at MediaBoatPodcast@gmail.com. If you do so, and it's before we record, we will read your question on the air. So please get questions and feedback to us in our email, MediaBoatPodcast@gmail.com.
That is both a threat and a promise.
Yes, that'll do it. Thank you for listening to us this week. I have to hit the restroom.
All right. You hit the restroom. I'll hit stop record. And we'll
Hey.
be back next week with our thoughts on Tar and who will be
Yes.
in the Super Bowl. And
Yeah.
maybe just talk about Rihanna.
Hey, we'll find out next week. So be there.
All right.
See ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Don't forget to unclip.